Good morning, everyone. This is January 20th, 2015, Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors meeting. Mr. Pedro, would you please lead us in the pledge of the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to announce that the 1:30 appointment for Blind Bull Diesel Ranch Shooting Range has been pulled from the agenda. It will not be heard. So next item on the agenda is oral communication. Anyone can get up and speak on any item that's not on the agenda.
I'm Eric Carlson from the Twin Heart Rotary Club, and I'm here to represent the Rotary Club and thank the board for what they did for our president, who will become 100 years old tomorrow. And we had published a calendar for 2015, and I'd like to present the board with a copy for each one of them, and then ask you to turn to the month of January. If I could present them to you. 2 weeks ago, Supervisor Hanvelt said he came up and saw our races last June and saw our president in his outhouse. And if you look at the month of January, there he is. We appreciate what you did for him, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name is Susan Lipscomb, in-home supported services provider. I would really like to extend my thanks and appreciation to the board for keeping the lines of communication open and it resulting in a raise for us. I am so grateful that you took the time, effort, and energy for our department. Have a wonderful year, and I'll see you next February when it's time to start negotiations again.
Okay.
Thank you again.
That was on the agenda, but thank you anyway. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Chairman of the Board, other board members, Paul Avila, County Fire. I'd like to take this moment to introduce John Robinson, our new Fire Prevention 1 Inspector. Another one of my priorities when I took this position was to, fulfill that position. Well, through a long recruiting process, my number one goal was customer service. And I believe this individual, John Robinson, is the person, well, I know he's the person for the job, that's why we hired him. He's worked in Madison, Mississippi as a firefighter and also inspector for the city of Madison, for the Department of Defense in Bridgeport, California, and then most recently with the Groveland Community Service District. I'd like to take a moment for John to say anything.
Good morning, Board. John Robinson here. I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to serve Tuolumne County. I'm excited, and I think that there's several steps forward that we get to take, and I'm excited to work with all of you. If there's any questions or anything that you need, please don't hesitate. I'm here for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, on the consent agenda, item 9, we will pull item 9 and handle that separately. Would the clerk please read the consent calendar?
Minutes of the meeting held on December 16, 2014. Adopting a resolution approving a summary vacation of a public utility easement, Parcel B, of Parrots Ferry Village at the request of Tuolumne Utilities District. Approving the snow and ice removal policy for the Columbia and Pine Mountain Lake airports. Consideration of approving a new 5-year plan for office space at 99 North Washington Street. Adoption of a resolution supporting ongoing federal funding for the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Act program. adopting a resolution supporting the ongoing federal funding for the payment of in lieu of tax program, consideration of approving 2 CalNet 3 authorizations of order for phone and data services with the State Department of Technology Services and AT&T, approving an amendment to the Central Valley Independent Network Easement Agreement grant access to place a broadband conduit and fiber into the main branch county library. Number 9 has been pulled. Approving the reappointment of David Wynn to the Historic Preservation Review Commission and accepting the resignation of Jerry Morrow from the Tuolumne Planning Commission and the Historic Preservation Review Commission effective January 31st, 2015, and directing the clerk to send letters of appreciation and post a notice of vacancy.
I'll move on the consent agenda.
We have a first by,
Second.
and a second by Supervisor Brennan. Any public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, bring back for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Item 9.
Consideration of adopting a resolution appointing Tom Atkins as an extra help retire annuitant to perform the duties as a relief community service officer for the County of Tuolumne under Government Code Section 21-22-4, effective January 7th, 2015.
Under Sheriff Pooley.
Good morning, Under Sheriff Pooley. As you know, CalPERS retirees, if we want to hire them back within 180 days of their retirement, we are required to come before you for a resolution. We have Tom Atkins, who is a Community Service Officer 2, who just retired December 31st. We'd like to bring him back early. He holds special needs for us in the area of evidence collection and processing, as well as on the SAR team. Tom Atkins will be essentially as an on-call basis, help us through the transition, finding a person to replace him, as well as training those individuals. He will also be on call for SAR call-outs. Due to his retirement status, he'll be working less than 200 hours a year for us.
Any questions to staff? Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back.
Move on recommendation.
We have a first and second. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, bring it back for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Item 12, please.
Consideration of adopting a resolution proclaiming January 2015 as Mentor Month in Tuolumne County.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Elena Linehan. I'm with the Mentoring Works program at ATCA. Wanted to let you know that they did research on mentoring back in the Bush administration. That's the Herbert Walker Bush administration. It showed that mentoring was the most effective and least expensive form of intervention for at-risk kids. On a national level, they found that kids were less likely to begin using drugs, less likely to be using alcohol, had significant grade improvements when you compared the kids who had mentors to kids who didn't have mentors. I think the most important thing was that they credited their mentors with the reason that they were able to avoid those risk activities. We've had a mentoring program here in Tuolumne County through ATCA since 1997, and we've been doing some research too, and we found that the kids that were mentored had 78% less disciplinary referrals, 78% better improvement, 86% were more active in their school, 100% had better opinions of school, and 100% had better grade point averages. We have the mentoring program where we match adults with, Mentoring Works program matches adults with kids in need. We also have the Friday Night Live mentoring program, which is high school students mentoring younger kids. And through our suicide prevention services that we have through the YES partnership, we also coordinate boys' council and girls' councils on 7 different campuses. Those aren't particularly mentoring programs, but they're more like peer mentoring programs. One of our grandparents who's raising her granddaughter said that her mentor, granddaughter's mentor, was a peaceful place for the daughter to go when the family was having troubled times, and that the mentor taught her many things and expanded her horizons. And she said this friendship, she knows her granddaughter will treasure for the rest of her life. So thank you for taking the time to proclaim Mentoring Month with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lena. Good morning, Board. My name is Marcy Harnish. I'm the Executive Director of TeenWorks Mentoring in Tuolumne County. We do many things partnering with ATCA and their Mentoring Works program. I think the difference between our two programs, we are a Christian-based program, which technically means we require our mentors not only go through extensive background checks and fingerprints, DOJ, FBI, and home visits, we also require them to be of the Christian faith. We do not require our mentees, though, to be of any faith. We take kids between the ages of 12 and 19, and we definitely classify our kids that we get as at risk. So we have every end of the spectrum from a 1 to 10 grade, averaging from probation kids that are in the criminal justice system now to kids that are starting to fail in school, just starting to step over that line into risky behavior, getting involved in things that, peer pressure. There's a lot of bullying going on in our schools today. So we get these kids from a variety of sources within our county, too. Obviously, probation is one. Another one is the ISIS, Infant Child Enrichment Syndrome. Child Welfare Services will refer kids to us. Schools, local schools, their counselors will refer children to us. And lately, we have had quite a few, because of the dynamics in our county, grandparents that are raising their grandkids. It might be one grandparent. They will call desperately looking for help for these kids because they're headed down the wrong path. So we take them in, and we also provide one-on-one gender-specific mentoring for both boys and girls. Our mentors, they sign up at a minimum for 1 year of service. I've never seen any leave after that year because they definitely get pulled into helping these kids, giving them a sense of there's hope. They have confidentiality with their mentor. It is, as Elena said, a safe place for them. They meet 1 to 2 hours a week, and many of our mentors meet much more than that with their mentees. A lot of them have kind of brought them into their whole family dynamic and helped these kids really see what is a family, a nuclear family, and how does it really function because they don't have one. Most of our kids they come to us with zero hope and zero trust for adults. One really neat thing that we started as a result of a very generous grant request from the Sonora Area Foundation, we were able to implement group mentoring in November of this past year. And it's a really exciting time because we have, it's again gender specific. I and my assistant facilitate the girls, and Nate Levering from Sierra Bible and one of his partners, Nate Milnick, facilitate the boys. This is just another incident where these kids can come for 2 hours out of the week, get out of their environments that they're in, and learn from us positive life-building skills, communication skills, how to deal with the things that they're facing in their lives. So I, too, thank you so much for recognizing National Mentoring Month because it is making a difference in these kids.
Any questions? I do have one. Right now, how many kids are in the program, and then how many mentors are there, and do you need more?
Thank you. Yes, we have 18 matched mentor-mentee matches, which was double from what we had last year. We have 3 children waiting for mentors right now and 1 mentor being processed. But as of last week and the PSAs and the Newsmaker of the Day that was on the local radio stations, I've had calls and people are sending in applications for mentors. But yes, we are always in need of mentors. We'll never run out of at-risk kids.
All right, thank you.
There's always a need. We have a dozen mentors and 6 kids on the wait list.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Carl?
I move that we approve the resolution proclaiming January 2015 as Mentor Month in Tuolumne County.
A second from Supervisor Hanvelt. Any public comment? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 13.
Consideration of approving a certificate of recognition commending Jerry Morrow for his dedicated service to the county as a member of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Bev Shane, Community Resources Director. I don't know, are you planning to read the... Otherwise, I'll just ask the board to approve the certificate of
Ms.
recognition.
Shane, I'm going to ask you to read this because
Okay.
I'm having a vision problem this
Okay.
morning.
All right.
And this print is a little small for me.
Okay. So I'll first of all just mention that, maybe I'll just read the certificate and then ask your board to approve it.
Okay.
I'm very pleased to advise the board and the public that we're here today to recognize Jerry Morrow, who is a leader in our community. And their certificate reads, "The Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes Jerry Morrow for his many years of service as a member of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission. Since his appointment in February of 2001, Commissioner Morrow has devoted countless hours to attending meetings of the Planning Commission, serving as its chairman, vice chairman, and representative to the Board of Supervisors Planning Committee, and has taken on the role of advisor, educator, and mediator during these many meetings. Commissioner Morrow has contributed tremendously to the betterment of the county through the thoughtful and thorough deliberation he gave to each of the projects and policies considered by the Commission. For the past several years, Commissioner Morrow has been active in the California County Planning Commissioners Association, having served as its president in 2007 and on its board of directors in a number of capacities. As its president, Commissioner Morrow organized the association's very successful statewide conference in Lake Tahoe in 2007. He assisted in organizing regional conferences to provide training and networking opportunities for planning commissioners from throughout the state of California. On October 13th of 2012, Jerry Morrow was recognized for his leadership and service when he was named Commissioner of the Year by the California County Planning Commissioners Association. Commissioner Morrow has been involved in many other activities to the benefit of Tuolumne County and its citizenry. In addition to serving on the Planning Commission, he has been a member of the Tuolumne County Historic Preservation Review Commission since 2011 and has been active in many community organizations, including the Sons in Retirement Society. He also ministers to inmates on behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at the Sierra Conservation Center. Through his efforts, Jerry Morrow has demonstrated the true meaning of community service. The Board of Supervisors does hereby join the Tuolumne County Planning Commission and the Community Resources Agency in expressing their sincere appreciation for the many years of service, commitment, and dedication that Jerry Morrow has given to the County of Tuolumne as a member of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission."
Thank you. Supervisor Hanville.
Yeah, I'd just like to say to Jerry, you participate in this job, and I often refer to this job as a thankless job because there are an enormous amount of hours put into this job, a lot of research, a lot of extra effort, and you've done that. And so while it's been thankless at this point, I want to say thank you. It takes a lot of dedication, and we know you've been there, and you've done a great job. So I do want to say thank you, and with that, I'd like to move adoption of the resolution.
Okay, we have first,
Second.
second by Supervisor Brennan. And now I get to have the pleasure of presenting this. First, before I do, is there any public comment? All right.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Forgot the most important. You know, I met Jerry quite some time ago, I think. You were,
Yes.
when you first, we were kind of shared some planning commission experience. One thing I do know about him is he's thorough. When there is a planning issue, he really does the detail. He visits the sites. He is a real thorough guy. So whoever we place him with, I really challenge them to do as good a job as Jerry has. So, Jerry, thank you very much.
If I can say a few words.
Oh, absolutely.
First of all, I would like to, a lot of people ask me, they say, are you going to die? You're giving up everything. Well, I'm going to be, in April, I'll be 80 years old, and maybe it's time for me to slow down a little bit. But it's been an honor and a privilege to serve on the Planning Commission. I know that I've been doing this since I was 20 years old, and my father always told me, he said, make sure that you serve your community wherever you're at. And I've done that since I've been 20 years old. And it's something that I feel that I hope the young people will be involved and step up and serve their community also. Again, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for the past years of the appointments that they've given me. And I want to thank the community for all the dedication that they do. This is a great county to live in. I really love this county and really appreciate it. And closing, General MacArthur had an old saying, "Old soldiers never die, they just fade away." Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Not quite.
Okay, next item on the agenda, number 14.
Consideration of appointing the appointment of District 1 and District 2 representatives to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission.
Okay, we'll do this by district, and I'll ask for nominations. Staff report, do you want to give us a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that I really need to. Bev Shane, Community Resources Director. As a reminder, there are currently now 3 vacancies on the Tuolumne County Planning Commission as of this morning when you accepted Commissioner Moore's resignation. This morning on your agenda, however, are the appointments to the District 1 and District 2 representatives. Just for the public's benefit, there are 7 members on the Tuolumne County Planning Commission. 5 of them do represent the 5 supervisorial districts, and the other 2 are at-large members. And we do have the vacancy on District 2, which was created by Ron Ringen's election to the Tuolumne Utilities District. That creates an incompatibility office situation, so he had to resign from the Planning Commission. And the District 1 vacancy was created by Jim Garaventa's election to the Sonora City Council, again creating an incompatibility office situation. So those 2 seats are currently vacant, and we're looking forward to whomever you appoint to the Planning Commission to have them join this group. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for nominations, starting District 1.
Yeah, and I would first like to thank all the applicants. I was really impressed with the caliber of the applicants and the number of applicants, and just would like to thank them all for stepping up and wanting to take this task on. One of the requirements that I had was that the applicants attend the meeting so they have some idea of what will be taking place. And I am very proud to nominate Cole, and I hope I get your last name correct here. Thank you, Williams. Thank you, Cole. Thank you. And I'm really excited because Cole does represent that next generation with a young family and a business downtown and dedicated to his community.
I'll second that.
We have first and second. Any public comment? Seeing none. Any other nominations? Seeing none. Bring it back for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Cole.
I also want to make a comment before I ask for the next nomination that with, as Bev said, with Mr. Morrow's resignation, there is an at-large position available, and I would hope that all of you that have put in applications that don't get selected this round would continue to be interested in the position. Okay, District 2.
Mr. Chairman, this is a difficult job, and the first time I appointed someone to this job, I sent 6 people. I told them, have you been to a planning commission meeting? You want to do this job? Have you been there? And none of them had been there. I told them all to go to at least one and then come back and tell me you really want to do this job. And Jerry knows what I mean by that. You really want to do this job and you're willing to put in the time and the effort to do it. I appreciate that all these people applied. Commitment to community service is a big deal. There was only one application that physically lived in District 2, and I talked to the gentleman, and I think he's sincere. I think he's a wonderful candidate, except he hasn't been to a planning commission meeting, and we haven't had one since December, and he couldn't go to that one. I feel an urgency to do this because I think there's a lot of important decisions coming up on the Planning Commission, and it's important we have someone knowledgeable and experienced in that. And I've found a gentleman who, while he doesn't live in District 2, which is not a requirement, he's pretty darn close. I mean, I think I can almost throw a stone from my house and hit his, but I know he can throw a stone from his house and get in District 2 pretty easily. But he has a lot of experience, and I think he's a committed, dedicated public servant. And with that, I would like to nominate Mr. Peter Rye as the delegate.
All right, we have a first and second. Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Well, welcome, everyone. Next item, 15. Yes, on item 15, I'm going to recuse myself. Government Code 87-100. I do own Williamson Act property. And we need to have some on-the-job training here, so we're going to give it to Supervisor Roedifer.
Okay, I'll read the item. It's consideration of adopting a resolution, adopting the Williamson Act Resolution 106-04 policy regarding the farm labor housing.
Okay, so. Yes. Yeah. I have a potential conflict also, and so I need to recuse myself based on Code 87-100.
Okay. Just a reminder, we do need 3 votes on this.
We still have a quorum.
Yes, we do. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Well, good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. I'm Vicki Helmer, Agricultural Commissioner. Before you today is a resolution adopting a policy for farm labor housing on Williamson Act contracted land. Under Resolution 10604, Tuolumne County's Williamson Act regulations, farm labor housing is considered a compatible use for commercial agriculture and is permitted on land under contract. Rule 8B5 of the Resolution 10604 specifies that farm labor housing be subject to recommendation by the Agriculture Advisory Committee and approved by the Board of Supervisors. In order for the Agricultural Advisory Committee to be able to make recommendations regarding farm labor housing, a set of criteria to fairly and consistently evaluate requests needed to be developed and adopted as policy. It is important that the policy adopted be strong enough to prevent landowners from using farm labor housing as a means of getting a second single-family dwelling on their property, yet flexible enough to address the farm labor needs of Tuolumne County. Our proposed revisions to the ag element of the general plan recognize the importance of farm labor housing to Tuolumne County. The revisions include the direction to adopt a policy regarding farm labor housing on Williamson Act contracted land that specifies conditions under which farm labor housing is considered necessary to an agricultural operation. The proposed policy included in your packet was developed by the Agricultural Advisory Committee and staff with input from the California Department of Conservation, Community Resources Agency, County Council, and Tuolumne County Housing Coordinator. Important elements include the requirement that the need for farm labor exists, that the housing provided could be considered as part of the income, that seasonal farm labor housing could be provided through recreational vehicles, and that housing is allowed for family members involved with the agricultural production of the property, even if the involvement is only on a part-time basis. It's recommended that your board adopt this resolution approving the policy regarding farm labor housing on land under Williamson Act. And Mike Laird from Community Resources and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I'll go to the public first. Anyone have any public comment? Bring it back to the board, and before I go to the board, I just want to ensure that I understand one point of clarification. Taxes on improvements on the property are not affected by the Williamson Act. The Williamson Act tax rate is only applied to the land value. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Yes, Supervisor Hanveld.
Ms. Helmer, reading the exhibit here, it says farm laborers shall be employed for the primary purpose of agricultural pursuits on the premises performing duties typically associated with the approved agricultural production management plan. Agricultural pursuits, I assume that includes anything allowed under the ag element. Is that correct?
It's anything that is allowed under the Williamson Act contract. Everybody who has a Williamson Act contract has to provide, as part of getting that contract, a management plan. So anything that is on that management plan would be the agricultural pursuit for that property.
Well, we're about to, when the general plan is finally adopted, which is probably next year, but when it's finally adopted, it will include the ag element. Maybe the question is for Mr. Laird. Does that automatically include any of those allowed items under the ag element in the Williamson Act contracts?
Not automatically. They would have to be, as the Ag Commissioner just said, they would have to be within the ag management plan for that contract.
Okay, so I understand. Okay, thanks.
How often is the ag management plan updated for a Williamson Act contract?
It's only updated when the person who has the contract comes to us and wants to change what their agricultural operation is.
What's the cost associated with that? Fees and
From our department, none. I believe what they do is submit a revised agricultural management plan. Now, Mike, is there any fees associated with that from your department?
There's no fees if it's just updating the ag management plan. If they have to,
An
if it's so
original
substantial
one.
they have to do the contract, then there's a fee, but not just the ag
what is
management
that?
plan.
Just out of curiosity.
If they change the agricultural use, if they change the area under contract, those types of things.
What does that cost? What are those fees? Just for the initial.
No, it's $100 to $200, that range.
Okay. And then what's the timeline to be able to do that? They go through the Ag Advisory Committee.
It depends on the management, the changes to the management plan. Recently, we had adopted the ability that if there's a change, that's a minor change, and that everything is going to be complied with Rule 8, which is our compatibility, that is something that I can go ahead and review and be administrative, go back to the advisory committee that month, and we're done. Does not have to go back to the board.
So would you say the proposal and the policy that we're looking at, it's flexible and it'll be reasonably easy for anybody with a legitimate proposal to get through?
Yes, if somebody has ag production and they need farm labor to help them with their ag production, and they can show us that, then this should not be a problem.
Okay. That's what I want is flexibility, and it'd be pretty easy to, yeah.
However, they do need to show a need for farm labor housing.
We don't want it to be a loophole to put trailer parks on every ag parcel out there. So
Yeah.
I understand that.
Okay.
Do you want a motion?
Yeah.
I'll move on recommendation.
Okay, any other public comment? Any more board comment? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Abstain? None. The measure passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John and Sherry.
So how was that taste of power?
It was overwhelming, I can assure you.
Next item.
Number 16, consideration of approving a standard agreement for professional services with Wood Rogers, Inc. for design services associated with Phoenix Lake Road widening and Tuolumne Road widening projects.
Good morning, Chairman.
Go ahead.
Members of the board. Tanya Allen, Supervising Engineer of the Community Resources Agency. The county was awarded under the Highway Safety Improvement Program also known as the HSIP, 2 projects that include widening and safety measures along Phoenix Lake Road and Tuolumne Road. Engineering circulated requests for proposals, and Wood Rogers has been selected for both of these projects. The agreement will include both projects as one and will be completed in 2 phases. Phase 1 will perform a topographic survey and 30% design, and Phase 2 will include completion of the plan, specification, and bidding and construction support. Phase 2 will be presented as an amendment to your board at a later date. The roadway improvements on Phoenix Lake Road from Ridgewood Drive to Paseo de Los Portales Road will consist of, in general, widening the roadway to have a consistent width to accommodate 12-foot lanes and an 8-foot paved shoulders, and improve sight distance and crests on the vertical curves. Drainage will also be part of this improvement. The roadway improvements on Tuolumne Road between Lambert Lake Road and Terrace Drive will consist of, in general, the widening width for 12-foot lanes in each direction and a combined 2-way left turn lane and 8-foot shoulders, and drainage will also be improved on these projects as well. It is recommended that your board approve the standard agreement for professional services with Wood Rogers associated with the design and survey road improvements on Phoenix Lake Road and the roadway improvements on Tuolumne Road, an amount not to exceed $64,704 for Phase 1, and authorize the chair to sign the agreement.
Okay, any questions for staff? Supervisor Hanvelt.
Ms. Allen, a couple of quick questions. What are the distances that we're going to be doing on each of those roads?
The width. I have here our project engineer, Gadiel, and I believe they're within a half a mile that you can identify.
Yeah, Gadiel Dimite, Tuolumne County Engineering. Yeah, they're both about a half mile long.
Okay, and what are the lane widths right now?
Approximately 11 feet.
So we're going to widen them by 1 foot and put shoulders on their 8 feet. Okay. Someplace I thought I read here that Phoenix Lake Road project is in the 2014-15 fund capital project, so is Tuolumne Road. So you're going to get them done before the end of June?
No, that is, I believe, just for the preliminary engineering. And what
When's the physical construction going to take place?
I believe that's in 2016.
Okay.
And just to note, that's under the expedited program through the HSIP program.
Yeah, I know. The glacier's coming. I know. And that construction will be funded through this program?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Okay, Supervisor Royce.
Yeah. Should I tell my story?
You might as well. It'll
When
help.
I was 16, I wrecked a truck off of Tuolumne Road right there. I was pulling a trailer, and it didn't have enough tongue weight, and I didn't know how that worked when I was that age. So I jackknifed it and went off that edge. And it is pretty narrow, and anytime you have an accident right there, it plugs up the whole thing. The question I have is, oftentimes you see pedestrians walking along Tuolumne Road right there, and it's really dangerous. I think at one point when I was younger, I remember someone getting hit there. So is there going to be enough room with these shoulders for people to walk, or is there any way that we can make enough room for people to walk? I don't know about proposing sidewalks just because of the cost and the funding sources we have, but
I would agree with that statement. The cost would be escalated
issue.
if you added
Yeah.
a pedestrian facility along
With
that
curb and gutter
roadway.
and sidewalk, yeah.
You have severe cuts and then fills on that
Yeah.
area. But I believe with an 8-foot shoulder, that's also going to help for those who do
it's going
like
to
to
help a
use
lot.
that.
Is it going to be realigned at all, or is it just going to be widened?
Just widened.
Just widened. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I'll be happy to make a motion on the recommendation.
Motion by Supervisor Royce. Second by Supervisor Hadvelt. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, bring it back to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this exempt from CEQA? Do we know? Is this exempt from CEQA? Just curious.
No.
So there is, because of the funding or just because of the nature of it?
Well, I'll let Bev answer that, but
Even though we're already done, I'm
we're
just curious.
we still have to abide by CEQA and NEPA on a federal aid project.
Okay, that's
Yes,
fine.
it's because it's federal funding, we have to go through the NEPA process.
Because there
We
was a
haven't gotten to the
loophole.
point yet where we can determine whether or not we can be fit into a categorical exemption under NEPA, and
Yeah.
it's possible because it's just widening, but again,
Yeah.
there may be something along the roadways that we don't know yet.
That would be nice, though.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Item 17.
Consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the engineering staff to prepare and administer federal funding applications for the reconstruction of Evergreen Road, Hardin Flat Road, Pinecrest Lake Road, Dodge Ridge Road, Loop Road, and Red Hill Road under the Federal Land Access Program through the Federal Highway Administration.
Ms. Allen.
Good morning. Tanya Allen, Supervising Engineer. Federal Lands Access Program is releasing a call for projects. This is also known as the FLAP. Preference will be given to those projects that provide access to federal use or high-use recreational areas or federal economic generators. In 2013, the county did apply under this program, and we were successful at shortlisting Evergreen Road. Using this experience and going through that process, we are proposing for this next call of cycles 5 projects, one including Evergreen Road. We will be reconstructing Evergreen Road from State Highway 120 to Hetch Hetchy Road, which is about 7.4 miles. The first 1.4 miles will receive a cold foam in-place recycling and roadway overlaid with a hot mix asphalt. The remaining 6 miles will receive a total reconstruction with new base material and overlaid with a hot mix asphalt. The roadway will be widened to 22 feet, and the project will also include rehabilitation and replacement of some drainage culverts on Evergreen Road. This may also include installation of guardrail in some areas of our concern. Our approximate total project cost on this is $12.3 million. Hardin Flat reconstruction will reconstruct Hardin Flat Road at the westerly intersection of State Route 120 to its easterly intersection at State Route 120, which is about 6.14 miles. The road will receive total reconstruction with new base overlaid with hot mix asphalt, and that total project cost is approximately $11.7 million. Pinecrest Lake Road reconstruction. This project will reconstruct Pinecrest Lake Road from Dodge Ridge Road to Rustic Avenue, approximately 3/4 of a mile, using an in-place recycling on the existing roadway with a hot mix asphalt. The roadway will remain its 22-foot width, and then total anticipated project cost is $652,000. Dodge Ridge Road and Dodge Ridge Loop Road reconstruction will reconstruct both Dodge Ridge Road and from Pinecrest School Road to Dodge Ridge Loop Road and Dodge Ridge Loop Road using a in-place recycling treatment and overlaid with hot mix asphalt. That is a combined total 4 miles. The roadway will still remain its 23 feet in width, and the project will also include some replacement of culverts and installation of guardrail in areas that are needed. This total project is anticipated to be $3.4 million. Red Hills Reconstruction Project. This project will reconstruct Red Hills Road from LaGrange Road, also known as J59, to Highway 120 and 49. This is approximately 4.27 miles. The road will receive total reconstruction, new base material, and adding a hot mix asphalt. The roadway will most likely remain at approximately 20 feet, and the anticipated total project cost is $8.2 million. In previous cycles, the county shared the cost of $11.47. This year, however, in the 2015 cycle, the county is eligible for toll credits, so we will be pursuing that direction, which would pay for our 11.47 match. In this new program, as different from the 2013, the program would like us, as your board, to accept a resolution that would include providing sufficient maintenance for a period of 20 years or the life of the constructed facility, which is greater, which we do have in place now. Delegate authority to the applicant to authorize the execution of a maximum $10,000 reimbursement within 15 days of project shortlist notification. This is very similar to what we did on Evergreen Road and going through that process. And the applicants utilizing toll credits in lieu of a minimum match will indicate the amount in that resolution. So we have come up with those approximate costs, and you will see that as listed in your resolution. At this time, I just wanted to identify we've had the success on these projects is the people that support us with those support letters, identifying the economic revenues, the users that go into it. So I just wanted to bring some of our local businesses that have actually supported us last year, and we're getting more this year. And those people are Lee Zimmerman, San Francisco Recreation Department, the Forest Service. In the Pinecrest Basin stakeholders, we have Lori Cashman with Pinecrest Lake Resort. We are looking at Josh Bloom with Aspen Meadow, Friends of Pinecrest, and of course, Sally Helm has been a big help with Dodge Ridge in facilitating all this connection with all these Pinecrest Basin stakeholders, including Tim Fisher and Mike Yaley. So in that, I am recommending that your board adopt the resolution and authorizing engineering division to prepare and administer federal applications for the reconstruction of Evergreen Road, Hardin Flat Road, Pinecrest Lake Road, Dodge Ridge Road, and Loop Road, and Red Hills Road under the Federal Lands Access Program.
Any questions, Supervisor Royce?
You're not getting rid of the stream crossings in Red Hills, are you?
Those are actually been secured under our Highway Bridge program to
So you are
replace
bridging
some
them?
of those. Yes.
Oh, I don't
Box
like that.
culvert, box culverts.
Putting low
Those are
box
fun.
culverts.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
safety.
I was going to say the people that we close the road to during a flood don't probably think it's
What did you do when you were 16 years old?
I've been out to Red Hills a few times. No, I'll just make a comment since I'm off subject, but these are really important projects. I appreciate you guys putting staff time into making a good application, getting the support letters. That's really important and extremely critical to economic development. If you look at in my district, Pinecrest and Dodge Ridge and those places, if we can secure this, this will be huge, especially with the lack of adequate road maintenance funding that's out there. So,
Right.
Good job.
Supervisor Hanveld.
Ms. Allen, the one thing that's left out of here, just for public interest, ours too, I suppose, is assuming we're successful in this, what would be the timetable for doing any of these projects?
Because this is still under a federal program, you're going to still have the same requirements going through NEPA. And typically those programs at max is 6 years for total project.
6 years.
6 years by the time you're constructed and done. Because there's an extensive federal environmental process that you have to go through.
Okay.
One question.
Sherry.
With Red Hills Road, when you go through there, any weekend in the wintertime, there are a number of recreational horse users.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if reaching out to one of the clubs that has a large
that's a good
membership
idea. Good idea.
in support
Mhm.
of that work down there.
And BLM, if we haven't already got a letter of support from them.
We are working
Okay.
with BLM. Yeah.
Any other comment? I think this is great. You know, $36 million worth of work. Even if it took 6 years to get it done, it's well worth it. So,
Yeah.
Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I'll move on the application.
Second.
First and second, any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 18, please.
Consideration of approving the 2015 Board of Supervisors Planning Committee Work Program.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Bev Shane, Community Resources Director. Each year I come to your board with a work program for you to establish for your planning committee to accomplish throughout the year. I also provide a status report on the previous year's accomplishments, and I'm very pleased to see that the Board of Supervisors Planning Committee was extremely diligent and hardworking last year. As you know, they had the role of being the steering committee for the general plan update project. They reviewed all of the draft elements, all of the draft updates to the community plans, the 2 new elements we're proposing, and changes to the land use designations, which your board will discuss at a workshop on February 3rd. The committee, in addition to doing all the work on the general plan update, for which they spent 2 meetings each month for the first 5 months of the year, also reviewed several ordinances and other issues and completed all of the work by the end of October of 2014. This year on the work plan is not quite as ambitious. One of the main projects will be undertaking a comprehensive update of the zoning ordinance. The primary vehicle for implementing a general plan is the zoning ordinance, and since we are working on the general plan update, as we progress further into that effort, we will also start working on the zoning ordinance update as staff has time. And we're looking at changing the format and doing quite a few other things to it for your board's consideration to make it a little bit more user-friendly. So that's probably our biggest project for the year, that the planning committee will be involved at different stages in that effort. We're also proposing some updates to several of the other development-related ordinance sections of the ordinance code, including subdivisions, road standards, streets, sidewalks, public places, water and sewer, buildings and construction, which are in titles 11, 12, 13, 15, and 16. So a lot of those will be minor updates. There are always changes to state laws that require us then to go back to our ordinances to bring them into consistency, or we're finding too that there's some codes have been updated, others haven't, so you've got terminology that needs to be brought into conformance with one another. So we don't expect a lot of big changes in those sections. Simply, again, it's a matter of updating them to be consistent with other sections of the code, state law, or direction your board has provided. And so we don't see conflicts with the general plan update either with those. 2 exceptions, however, would be the proposed amendments to Title 13, which we are still waiting for the state of California to provide information so that we can proceed with the implementation of AB 885 for the sewage disposal update that's required by state law. Each of the water quality districts have to adopt a basin plan, and then our changes have to be consistent with our local basin plan for our region, and that still has not been resolved. So we're really still on hold working on that project. We had actually thought it would be in place by now. Other changes we'll make would be to provide other opportunities for reusing wastewater and things like that in our ordinance, especially in light of the drought. The other change that we are implementing based upon state law would be to Title 15, a law passed by the state of California that goes into effect by September 30th, is that each local jurisdiction must adopt an ordinance to streamline our building permit process for residential solar systems. So we will be working on that. I'm pleased to say that the limit on fees in the state law is already higher than what we charge, and so we already do have a process in place to expedite these. So for us, it's really a matter of memorializing those in the ordinance code as required by state law. The other ordinance we would like your board to consider authorizing us to pursue this year would be to address tenant assistance. State law allows, health and safety code allows tenants who are displaced because of substandard housing to receive compensation from landlords. That also authorizes local jurisdictions to help enforce that if we adopt an ordinance. As you know, we've had several code compliance cases that resulted in people being displaced. Many of them do not take advantage of the law and seek that compensation from their landlords. They don't want to deal with that process. This would authorize us to assist them. And so we would prepare a draft ordinance for consideration by the planning committee and ultimately by your board. So that's the proposed work plan for this year. The chairman of the Plan Committee, Supervisor Gray, has reviewed this, and he did raise the issue, which actually your board brought up at your last meeting, and that was about looking at some of the road mitigation processes. And I believe the Plan Committee could look at that as we look at the road standards and updating those as part of this process.
Okay, any questions? Supervisor Royce.
The ordinance that has to do with landlords and tenants, I'd just caution us. Getting in between landlord-tenant disputes is probably the last thing that I want to do. It can get very sticky, and I could just see lots of constituent calls, and you become a court for rentals. But looking at it through this committee, I think is fine. That's just my perspective on it. Water and sewer is always a sticky thing, especially in Tuolumne County, where we have a lot of rural type of residential development that's spread out. And I just same thing. Just caution. Please be aware of the impacts to people's undeveloped lots. And also, I mentioned during one of our last drought presentations that I think septic tanks, and if you think about a leach field, all the water that's flowing through your house is going back into the ground. And I think there's something to consider with that, and I would just ask that you, when the time comes, also look at that and see if there's any resources that have studied that. Zoning ordinance, like you said, it's just kind of staying with the law and keeping things current. And as far as zoning goes, I've had a lot of people asking about the general plan update. Is this something that people should pay attention to in conjunction with their general plan updates happening? I know some general plan designations, people are being upzoned and they don't like it because of certain things. And I'm curious, are there cases where people are being downzoned or?
No, your board direction was
not to
downzone.
Okay.
And so some of the proposed land use designation changes are to reflect the direction from your board.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily areas where we're promoting growth, but just going back through the 96 general plan and looking
Gotcha.
at areas that would have been downzoned based upon the current general plan, which we just haven't proposed yet. We haven't gone through that process. So there's an opportunity to propose that we not change the zoning, leave it as is, and just change the general plan. So you'll hear more about that on the 3rd of
that's
February. But you're seeing that
There's
there
a lot
are
of
a lot
questions from
more
people
land
that-
use designation changes that we are proposing based upon your policy or your direction than we had originally thought we would do as part of the general plan update.
Okay. And then I guess the last question, we had a pretty extensive discussion the other day at our meeting about mitigating off-site traffic impacts projects. Is that basically going to be considered in that encroachment part of this work plan, or is that something that we need to add?
No, I think as we talk about the road standards, we can talk a little bit about that. That really, though, gets into a case-by-case situation through SEQRA, but we can at least talk about our road standards and when the warrant system, how that works, and that type of thing. So some other updates may be needed that we can look at through this process.
So that's more of a discretionary type of deal with the way staff's dealing with CEQA applications? So is that more just the board wants to give you direction on how we want to do that,
both,
kind of?
Yes, it's both policy and there is always some discretion.
For sure.
Especially if a traffic study is needed, because then you've got a traffic expert looking at it and saying, because either the number of trips being generated, the safety situation, they would look at that.
Accident
of course,
history.
right now we're looking at level of service. CEQA's proposing that we look at vehicle miles traveled. So there are some issues that are in flux right now about traffic that will start settling out probably in the next year or so. The change to CEQA doesn't take effect for another year, but
so we'll track that and kind of
we are tracking that. But I think this will give an avenue of some discussion. The
Good.
fact that we've got road standards on our work program for this year provides an avenue to discuss that, at least at the committee level initially.
Aren't we going to add anything like chickens or anything so the newspaper has something to write an article about?
Elephants. We're going for elephants.
All right.
Yeah, it does
looks
seem
good.
a little boring, doesn't
That's
it?
a
this
pretty
year?
ambitious work plan. I think it's a good plan.
Pick up the pace.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions for staff? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none.
Move on staff recommendation.
Second.
First and second. Any comment on the motion? Seeing none. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item.
Consideration of approving the 2013 through 16 California Home Care Workers Local 4024 Memorandum of Understanding.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, and from Human Resources Manager. I'm pleased to bring to you this morning the contract for the in-home support services providers who are represented by California Home Care Workers Local 4024. The county and the union have met and conferred on our agreement with the following changes to the MOU. Currently, the in-home support services providers are making $9 an hour. As soon as possible, following approval of the board and the state of California, their wages will raise till $9.25 an hour. July 1st, an increase to $9.45 an hour, and then when minimum wage increases on January 1st, 2016, their wages will go to $10 an hour. Additionally, we established language that states should federal or state funding be reduced and the county have an unexpected increase in cost, the provider wages will be reduced back to whatever the minimum wage standard is at the time. We also updated language per a Welfare and Institutions Code change that allows unions to make 30-minute presentations to in-home service providers during orientation. And we updated the non-discrimination language so it currently matches the protected classes as established by the EEO standards. The staff is recommending that the board approve the 2013 to 2016 California Home Care Workers Local 4024 Memorandum of Understanding.
Any questions from the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I'd just like to thank staff for all their work on this. It was a long process, and a move to approve the recommendation.
Second.
First and second. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, bring it back for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item.
Consideration of approving the Columbia Airport Capital Improvement Plan, authorizing the county administrator to sign any grant offers.
Good morning. Daniel Richardson, Deputy County Administrator, along with me, Benedict Stuth, the county's airport manager. Almost said new, but I guess he's been with us for a few months now. Grateful to have him.
Been a great journey.
Yes. Before you is actually an annual process is to approve the annual capital improvement plan for both Columbia and Pine Mountain Lake airports. Today we're just looking at the Columbia side because Pine Mountain Lake Airport is not yet eligible to receive federal funds due to the residential through the fence issue. So today before you is the Columbia Airport capital improvement plan that is submitted to Caltrans and to the FAA. We have to submit this in order to be eligible to receive our federal funding for the capital projects. This actual list was presented to the users at Columbia Airport. A similar list was also presented to Pine Mountain Lake Airport, but like I said, we aren't proposing that for adoption today to the board. This list was also brought to the airport committee, and it was considered, and we won't call it approved because there wasn't a quorum, but it was unanimously said that they liked the plan that was presented at the meeting. There are significant funding requests that are coming with these $8 million worth of requests. There is a 10% local match. 5% of that comes from the state, and 5% from the county. So that is a significant match, $400,000. That, of course, would need to come from money that would be set aside from over revenues that would be over expenses from the airport's budget but most likely from the county's general fund to make these capital improvement matches possible. With that, I'll turn the time over to Mr. Stuth to go over briefly the projects that are included in this plan.
Thank you, Daniel. Members of the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to go over the different projects that are outlined in the capital improvement plan that we will be submitting, would like to submit to the Federal Aviation Administration and the State of California Division of Aeronautics. First, in this fiscal year, 2015, we're looking at doing an airport master plan, a taxiway Bravo rehab and reconstruction, and taxiway Charlie rehab and reconstruction design. So for this year, we're not actually proposing to do any development projects. It is merely master planning and design projects for this year. A lot of this has to do with getting the master plan done so that we can get eligibility for a lot of the future year projects that we would like to undertake at the airport, in addition to studying some specific areas to figure out what's going on that I'll get into in a second. Later on down in 2016, we are actually looking at funding the development of Taxiway Bravo and Charlie. So this would basically be localized reconstruction of some areas due to some safety concerns that we have, as well as replacing the pavement out there to bring it up to standard. We are also looking at doing in 2017 the parking apron rehab design and the alleyway designs for the hangar areas. In 2018, we're looking at doing the actual construction of the alleyway area, and in 2019, we're also looking at doing some design and construction as well. Followed up by 2020, we're looking at doing design and construction of the runway. A lot of these projects have been devised. I spent quite a few hours out on the airfield actually looking at pavement, talking to different consulting firms that I know, having them looking at the pavements, and just and meeting with the FAA as well, and looking at really where the conditions are, where our highest needs are right now, the different areas that we would need to take care of now so they don't degrade any further, and then looking at other pavement areas out there that can take a few years before they actually need to have some attention paid to them. So the plan as designed here really takes that into account. It's looking at the condition of the pavement and the infrastructure at the airport, what can actually be put out for out years, and what needs to be taken care of now. Just to go a little bit more into detail about our most upcoming projects here in 2015, the most important one really is the airport master plan. You'll note that the master plan's estimate is at about $300,000. All the estimates in this plan I have come up with based off of my past experience, both on this side of the table doing grants with the FAA and as a consultant. So this is very representative of projects that I've seen done in the past at similar sized airports and what they have paid for these types of projects to go through. $300,000 for the master plan is on the high side, and it is conservative. It may not actually reach that high. However, this master plan is much more comprehensive than you would normally see at a lot of other airports, in the fact that it actually has some additional studies attached to it. One of the studies is a pavement maintenance management plan. This plan the airport did have done for them by the state back in 2011. However, this will be updating it to get it to a point where we can actually get all the pavements on the airport on a plan that will have maintenance done to it, so that when we do have projects for them in the future to have them redone, we won't be doing reconstruction projects. We'll be doing just maintenance projects, and the cost for them will be significantly reduced than what you see in this plan now. It will also include an area-specific study. We have an old hangar area on the east side of the airport. It is our oldest part of the airport, and it has been degrading over the years to a point where we really need to look at what's going on. Historically, there has been a landfill in that area, and in going around and doing inspections, we have seen that there are a lot of pavements that have been starting to degrade to the point of reconstruction, but we've also noticed some of the hangars themselves starting to degrade as well. So there is quite a possibility that the subgrade underneath the entire area is failing, and so this study will have the consulting firms going in and actually drilling down and looking at what exactly is causing these problems so we can take care of that instead of consistently putting Band-Aids over these problems and dealing with them throughout the years. With that, if you have any questions.
Any questions? Mr.
Just,
Lover.
just some comments. Thank you, Benny, for the work that you've done since coming on board. For those that aren't aware, Benny stepped into a pretty deep hole out at our airport and has been working some magic out there, and I appreciate it personally. And there's more to come, obviously, with Pine Mountain Lake. Just for public information, we are pursuing residential through the fence permitting from the FAA. But this capital improvement program has been as enthusiastically received as possible among pilots. There's a lot of work to do out there, and this is just step one, and I just wanted to say thanks to the staff for the work that's been done.
Supervisor Royce.
Yeah. Last week, I participated in a strategic planning kind of a meeting at the TCTA, which is part of the TCTC, kind of the public transportation kind of JPA that we have. And one of the things that we talked about a little bit, or that I kept talking about, and probably everybody got sick of hearing, was the fact that there's so much traffic that goes to Yosemite that isn't really capitalized on in Tuolumne County. And I think long term, what I would like to see is eventually see people fly into Tuolumne County to go to Yosemite. And there's millions of people that go to Yosemite. And, you know, the benefit to Tuolumne County would be huge if you could take advantage of more TOT and rental cars and restaurants and all the different things that spawn from that. And I understand it's a difficult thing, and it's kind of a public-private partnership in a lot of ways that would probably need to be pursued on a lot of levels. But what I'm thinking here with any kind of long-term capital planning is that we want to consider that, even though it's kind of a long shot in a lot of ways. Like I said, the potential is there, and I don't want to create Achilles heels in our infrastructure to where if down the line, 10 years, 20 years, even 50 years, it's not viable because of the way our airport's set up. So if there's possibilities to update it to where, you know, small connecting flights could come here from San Francisco or something like that, if we could make that happen, that would be a really big.
It's an all good idea, but it's not quite on the agenda right now. But it's the thought of it's there.
Well, and I
think it's a good point that you're putting it out. But what we're looking at right now is to approve the
capital improvement plan.
Capital improvement plan.
I want to make sure that the capital improvement plan that we're approving would reflect taking those types of projects into consideration. So,
all right, we got it. We got it.
That's how it connects.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd like to make one. The reach out that you guys did to the community, to the airport community in Groveland and Columbia was really good. I think the PowerPoints were well received. All the information that was put out there, I think, was clearly defined. So the good thing is we got it out there, we've got support, and now it's your job to get the money. So well, I'll stop right there.
I'd like to move on staff recommendation.
Okay.
I would like to comment, and then I'll second the motion. First of all, I think the public needs to understand that there's a lot of good work done here, and I want to thank you for doing that. But it certainly shows the sad state of our airports, which should be an asset, and we've got a lot of work to do. And appreciate the effort you put into to put all this together. And I look forward to seeing if we can't make it all happen.
Okay, any other board comments? Public comment? Seeing none, bring it back for a vote. or a motion, excuse me. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank-
Next item. Think we have enough time for this, Mr. Pedro? Time-wise? Yeah, let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Clerk, please read item 21.
Consideration of approving the Courthouse Park Maintenance and Rehabilitation Project.
Mr. Pedro.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, before you is a proposed courthouse park maintenance and rehabilitation project. It is comprised of several components, and I'm going through. I know the board's had this packet for some time, but for the public who may be watching or listening, the original proposal sent to your board in the January 13 report to you called for removal of 7 of 18 trees in the park, and I'll detail those in a bit. Reevaluation of 1 tree as to whether it should be removed or trimmed and or cabled, thinning and removal of dead wood from the remaining 10 trees, replacement of the hedges along the park's marble walkways, creation of pedestrian pathways and strategic locations along the marble walkways into the grass quadrants of the park, replant the center circle instead of constructing a fountain, upgrade the park's watering system, replant the lawns, repair existing concrete walls and walkway framing where needed, and remove the park's transit stop in conjunction with placement of new stops included in the Vision Sonora project, and then lastly, to install security cameras on surrounding buildings to monitor park activities. Why are we doing this? And I just want to get this on the record. The removal and thinning of trees is critical for safety and overall tree and plant health in the park. These recommendations are supported by 3 reports prepared by 2 out-of-county arborists over a 3-year period. These reports were independently reviewed and recommendations generally endorsed by the University of California Cooperative Extension Office. The removal and replacement of hedges is necessitated by the current trampled and mildewed state of the existing plants. Completion of the tree and hedge work noted above will improve visibility and reintroduce sunlight into the park. This will help promote healthy tree, hedge, and grass growth in the park, as well as address security concerns raised by members of a courthouse park committee that met several times in 2013 and 14. Officially abandoning the concept of building a fountain in the center circle of the park is in keeping with the park's original design and will prevent introduction of an attractive nuisance and maintenance liability into the park. The creation of internal pedestrian pathways to and from the park's 4 grass areas will facilitate safe access to those areas, as well as prevent the trampling of the park's hedges. And then all the above is intended to improve the attractiveness of the park and the overall user experience, whether it is the quiet enjoyment by casual users or during organized events hosted in the park. Okay, that's the only reading I'm going to do of this whole report. In there, it does mention that I know anytime we start talking about trees or the park, it's a very sensitive issue. That's why we've taken our time in getting a lot of input, on this. Again, two arborists doing 3 studies over 3 years, UC Cooperative Extension. We did reach out initially once, now done it twice, to the State Office of Historic Preservation to get their input. And we have gone to your Tuolumne County Historical Preservation Review Commission for their input, as well. I have a PowerPoint up, and it's an entire three-slide PowerPoint. The first slide speaks for itself. This is the canopy as taken in May of 2014, just showing that all but just one little sliver of the center circle of the park is visible or can be seen. It just shows that the park has now become overgrown, and light cannot get into it. The next slide is just one of several that's in your packet. Maybe there's 2 of them in here. just showing that, again, from a ground level, very little light is able to filter through when all the trees are leafed out. If you were to go out there today, more light gets in, but there's also no leaves on the trees. Here's one more view of the park, from Washington Street. Again, very difficult to look through it, just dense, very little light, actually reaching the ground. In the report, excuse me, I have to do a little fine adjustment here. In the report, attachment I of the report is this summary. It's kind of a consolidated report of what the two arborists had recommended. Let me give you the orientation of this slide. Dude, could you hit the lights? Thank you. You have Jackson Street at the bottom, Yaney at the top, so kind of a north orientation, Washington Street on the right, Green Street on the left. What the arborists had recommended, there were 3 trees that were recommended for removal specifically because they were identified as hazards and should be taken out. It's a risk management issue. First is this number 11. It's a cedar tree. This is in the quadrant closest to the courthouse. Then there's a sycamore on the northwest quadrant near Yaney. The recommendation there was as soon as possible. And then a ponderosa pine just north of the center circle, also due to structural issues with that tree. So those 3 that are in a red or pink, however you want to call it yourself, those are recommended specifically because they've been identified by the arborists as having hazards. There's 4 more trees that are on here that are recommended for removal primarily for increased park health. Number 3 is a Douglas fir. This is on the Washington quadrant of the park, right across from the giant sequoia that's in the park. There's an Atlas cedar, number 7, that's right next to the transit stop on the Jackson Street side. And then number 10 is another Atlas cedar next to Green Street across from the courthouse. And also there's number 15, which is a juniper tree, which they also mentioned would also help reveal the adjacent coastal redwood, but was not recommended specifically because of it being a hazard. They questioned the value of the tree, that it actually hit some of the other trees. It's being out-competed by the redwood in particular, next to it, and so that had a couple reasons for it. There was one other tree, a Deodora cedar, number 16, next to the redwood, a center tree on the Yaney Street side, and there was an addendum in your report on this particular tree. Both the arborists, Grover and Rumble, talked about structural problems with this particular tree, that it has limbs on it that come out like an arm just bent up straight in the air, and they say that creates a structural problem. It puts it at risk of failure. They talked you could try to cable it, you could try to prune it, or you could remove it. And they didn't give an absolute, this is what you ought to do situation, but they point out a risk of failure and different ways that you could approach that. So either try to address it through the cabling, pruning, or remove the tree. On that one, staff said before this meeting, I'd go back and get some additional consult on that, which I did. The city has an arborist, Bill Selden. He looked at the tree. His report is a part of that addendum. And in his report, he clearly calls for its removal. He sees it as a hazard where limbs could come down either on adjoining businesses, on cars and pedestrians in Washington Street, or in the park itself. Also reached out to Mike Albrecht, also a forester, to get his 2 cents on it, independent of that which was provided from Mr. Selden. And for similar reasons, he also recommended the removal of the tree, seeing it as a hazard tree as well. So since this report was done, got those additional consultations completed, and staff would now recommend removing that as a hazard tree. It's a risk management issue. So that's in total 4 trees. The ones in pink, 11, 13, and 17 for risk management reasons. Number 16, again, risk management issues, removal. Number 15, when asked the other day by the HPRC, my recommendation would be taking this number 15 out. Again, it's a marginal tree. It's weak. It could be watered and kept alive, but does not contribute a whole lot, to the park, and is being outcompeted by others around it. And just a comment, number 14, it's been identified where it could either be removed or trimmed. That's a healthy tree. It's a beautiful tree. By removing some of the trees around it, it'll really reveal it, set it aside so people can enjoy it. We would just safety trim that particular tree and leave it be. And by the way, number 16, if you do agree and agree to take that out for the risk management reasons, I would recommend that you replant that tree to maintain symmetry of the park. So that would be a remove but replace. So the other would be, the other trees at issue would be number 10, number 7, and number 3. Those are really recommended for removal in order to get sunlight into the tree. Also just provide room, less competition for the other trees around them, and to get sunlight into the park so that we can grow grass, have healthy shrubs and whatnot in the park. That's not a risk management issue. It's more of an overall park health issue. And to me, that seems to be probably the most important decision that your board has before you today. To be clear, when we took this before the HPRC, actually I was very pleased that as far as the overall recommendations of the park, there was general agreement with the major components of the park as far as replacing the hedges and replanting in the center circle rather than the fountain, creating gaps in the hedges for people to get into the quadrants, the replanting, fixing the water systems, etc. The big difference was in how many trees would they recommend that we remove and the amount of replanting. Specifically, the HPRC endorsed removing the incense cedar number 11, the sycamore number 13, the juniper tree number 15, and the ponderosa pine number 17, but recommended at that time that each one of those, if they are removed, that they be replaced, replanted in kind with the same type of tree. And the other thing that they did ask was that we consult with State Office of Historic Preservation to obtain written documentation from the State Historic Preservation Officer as to the proposed action, getting their comments in writing. Did have staff ask Maureen Frank, my office, to make that contact. She did by email. That's included in the addendum to today's report. Asked questions a bunch of different times about the report, what trees, about the tree removal specifically, whether to replant or not. The real focus was if we took trees out, whether we replanted or not, would it affect our national registration of the park? And the answer from the Office of Historic Preservation stated that the Courthouse Square Maintenance and Rehabilitation Project appears to have been carefully thought out. As presented, it would not jeopardize the National Register listing of the property, and that was followed up in a phone call where that was repeated. So staff feels we've done our due diligence on this park. There's those number of trees that we feel are risk management issues. Just to review the ones that would be taken out: 11, 13, 17, and 16 due to risk management concerns, with 16 being replanted, also removing 15 because of the competition of that tree, and it's, again, just not a remarkable tree that's actually hiding some of the other nicer trees in the park. And then your board needing to make a decision on 10, 7, and 3 as to whether or not you'd want to remove those to allow more light, just to make the park healthier and to promote growth of other plants and whatnot in the park. I did receive a communication from a retired forester, Ross Carkeet, a longtime instructor at Columbia Park, and he also provided input, on the plan. And he was concluding that he felt that there was, I'll quote him, I believe removal of 3 or 4 of the highest risk trees, along with limbing, thinning of others, will improve the park aesthetics and safety considerably. He's basically agreeing some of these trees need to come out because of the risk management issues that they present. And I just made sure I responded to him, letting him know agree with that. Mentioned the addendum that speaks to tree number 16. He was also concerned that we may be removing trees. I believe, and I've heard this from others, that a recommendation is to remove trees to increase visibility into the park. Because of concerns of illegal activities occurring in the park. And I made it clear to Mr. Karkit and make it clear to the board and the public, we are not making recommendations to remove trees just to increase visibility in the park. That is not what we're proposing. We can accomplish much of that by just limbing the trees that are in the park and getting rid of and replacing the unhealthy and overgrown hedges that are in the park, and removing at the appropriate time the transit stop. So I think those are the major issues that he had raised. That is staff's recommendation. I'm available for any questions.
Supervisor Hanvelt.
Well, I'd really like to hear from the public, but I read Mr. Karkit's note and things. One of the things that didn't come clear to me in that these are beautiful mature trees, all that kind of stuff, but that park appears, and I walk through it time to time, and I'm concerned about the health of the trees. Is there sufficient soil available to collect enough water and nutrient to support all those big trees? I mean, most of the area around here is impervious, and I'm concerned about the long-term viability of the trees in the park.
Yeah, well,
Was there any comment to that?
There were comments that could have been made clearer in the reports from the arborist, but that's part of what they were getting at, is that too many trees, for the amount of area. I mean, look at that northern quadrant in particular. You've got 6 trees in that small little quadrant, where the others have 4, but there's 6, in that one. Talking with, I know Mr. Albrecht, he shared that kind of concern. He was relaying a story he tells when he goes out in the forest with kids from schools, that if you have too many trees in too close proximity to one another, it's not healthy. It becomes overgrown, and he was making the same comment to me in that regard about the nutrients, the water, just the canopy competition, that it's too choked. And Mr. Sullivan made similar comments, to me when we were talking about the park. But I want to be clear, I am not an arborist, I'm not a forester, I'm just relaying. That's why you have comments now from 3 arborists, UC Cooperative Extension, on this. 2 foresters.
Any other questions, Sherry?
No, I just want to hear from the public, and then I've got some comments.
Okay. We'll open this up to public comment. Yes.
Hi, my name is Richie Grant, and I've lived in the county since 1975. And I have a question for Mr. Pedro. On tree 13, that's a sycamore, and that's considered removal due to hazard. Is it unhealthy, or is it the way it's leaning? I'm curious.
It's unhealthy. It talks about both having trunk and limb failure potential. It's all leaning towards one way to boot. So good likelihood if it fails, it's going to go into the streets.
Okay. And if you look at this, this is 2 sycamores. They're on both sides of the walkways. So if this one was taken out, it would be nice if another one was planted, because I think somebody must have had that in mind when they originally planted them in 1936. I'd like to see that. I hate to see any of the trees cut down. But because I understand that there's more light, they want more light in there to grow grass and all that. But in the summer, when it's 100 degrees, that park is delightful. It's lovely to walk through or sit in there and have lunch, because it's such a great canopy of shade. And I know Washington Street used to be lined with trees, and it just, one after another, they're just going, they're gone. But if they're unhealthy and they're worried about falling on people, I understand that, or on businesses. But what I brought, and Mr. Pedro has a copy of this, these are alternative to lawns. They're drought resistant, they grow in shade, you mow them once a month. They've been developed by with the Oregon State University. A lot of them grow in the Northwest. So this is an alternative to just putting grass in the park. So I want to make sure that you guys knew about that. Everything else I understand. I think pulling the hedges out of there would be nice because they're in the way. Everybody walks through them, or, if it was just kind of flat through the park with some kind of nice ground cover. One of them even flowers. They're pretty hardy. It would be nice, and the cameras in there would be good if that's what the community needs. But personally, I'm not in favor of taking that many trees out. Maybe a few if they're dangerous, but otherwise, I think it's beautiful the way it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Sharon Maravich. I'm representing the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. I'm also a member of the Historic Preservation Review Commission and participated in the discussion we had a couple weeks ago. However, I am not speaking for the commission today. Your CAO has put together a very comprehensive report, and one that is long overdue, on the maintenance and health of Courthouse Square, which was developed in 1936 under the direction of Supervisor Frank Ralph. The monument on the Yaney Street side of the park is to his memory and his foresight in creating Courthouse Square during the worst times of America's Great Depression. The square was designed to complement the courthouse, as in so many other communities. The square has been listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and as such is one of America's national landmarks. Your report is based on many reasons for removing 39% of the trees in the park. One of them is, I don't know what report it's in, but it's in one of the reports of the arborists that you paid for, was that you could see the courthouse better. That's about the lamest thing I've ever heard. The courthouse has 4 sides. Probably the best view of the courthouse is from Yaney Street, looking at the front of it. Another reason is the concentration of shade. This presents problems if you want a lawn to grow or certain other plants. However, the county worked very hard to have grass growing in the park during the Amgen bicycle race, and it really looked good. Safety. When trees are not properly cared for, their limbs can die and present safety hazards, and the trees themselves can get diseased. Another one is the use by the public and safety of the public using the park. This park really should be the safest one in Tuolumne County. It's 2 blocks from the police department, 2 blocks from the sheriff's office, and across the street from a very well-armed Veterans Memorial Hall. There is much public use of the park, and I know you want to encourage that. It is not a traditional park. It's a kind of design that dates back to colonial America, where you had diagonal pathways leading to different places. In this case, it primarily got people from the courthouse to Washington Street and back, and a lot of those were lawyers and their clients. Events do go on in the park, and public use should be encouraged. Staff's report suggests that 39% of the trees be removed, as I understand it. That's 7 out of 18. 7 is several more than the arborists that you paid for recommended. I tried to compare what was recommended in the 2 reports that you have, and the 2 arborists, Grover and Rumble, and the Historic Preservation Review Commission are united on recommending that the sycamore at Yaney and Green be removed, the western juniper be removed, and that the incense cedar be removed. Grover suggests removal of the ponderosa pine, however, Rumble does not. The newest one that you've come up with is that the deodar cedar needs to be removed, and one of the reports suggests it either be properly pruned or removed. The Tuolumne Heritage Committee can support the removal of the trees that I mentioned, the sycamore, western juniper, incense cedar, and we would ask the county to replace them in kind. The two reports of the arborists strongly agree that the rest of the trees only be trimmed and pruned to remove dead wood and dead limbs. This is a simple, normal process for tree maintenance, and we support this recommendation. If you looked at the reports over and over again, this tree should be pruned, it should be trimmed. There's dead limbs up there. Take care of them. When spring comes, you could then see what trimming and the 3 or 4 trees that we agree could be removed would accomplish, and thus you would know how much more light, safety, and public use you have encouraged. Mr. Pedro's other recommendations seem reasonable. I would note that replacement of the hedges is an excellent idea. I believe they're unanimous, and they are a kind of hedge that does get mildewed if it doesn't get enough sun, and that's the case there. There was plenty of sun when the park was built, but times have changed. But if you do replace them with something that can do well in either sun or shade. Relative to a new lawn or ground cover, the availability of water will probably dictate when turf is planted, and the amount of light available will help decide what kind of grass or ground cover to plant. In summary, the Tuolumne Heritage Committee is saying that we would like you to slow down on tree removal so you can evaluate what taking out the trees has done and what the trimming has accomplished. Step 1 would be the removal of the 3 trees that your paid arborists agree on, and perhaps the ponderosa pine. Step 2, do the pruning and trimming that is recommended by them. Again, you could see how much new light and safety you have brought to the park. You might even be able to evaluate the center circle for vegetation. Perhaps some of that that was originally there. There are a couple of items that I did not see in Mr. Pedro's report that you might want to consider. That is putting flags on the flagpole that's in the park, and also applying the oils and the fungicides to 12 trees that the arborists say need treatment. The Tuolumne Heritage Committee hopes that whatever decision you make, please remember that the public loves this park and that a removal of 39% of the trees at one time is somewhat, in our opinion, ill-advised. Take it step by step. See what removing the 3 trees that we agree on will do. Do your pruning, and then see how much light and safety and so on you have brought to Courthouse Square.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Connie Williams, City Council, Sonora. I want to say thank you for the staff for all the work that they did on this project. I want to thank you, the board, for the consideration for making this park something that we will all be extremely proud of. The Courthouse Park plans will obviously complement everything in the Vision Sonora plan for the revitalization of historic downtown Sonora. By the way, we're talking about trees. In the plan, we have recommendations from the community to put more trees in downtown Sonora along Washington and Stockton streets. Additionally, as elected officials, we all know how important it is for safety for our residents and visitors. And we look forward to a more beautiful courthouse park in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Oh, sorry. You're easily ignored.
I'll remember that, John. Supervisor Gray. Now I got to thank you. You got
Off
me
guard.
off track. Anyway, Mike Ayala, Tuolumne County Chamber of Commerce. Looking at Courthouse Park, and I was part of Amgen, and I'll say it was beautiful back then. Nowadays, I don't know. I don't like taking trees out either with the next person, but I think there comes a point in time that things need to be addressed. I often call it pruning. Sometimes it's where I'm committed, and sometimes it's where there's trees and too many trees. There's not enough water. There's not enough soil nutrients. And I think things can be done to improve, enhance, and beautify going forward. I understand the past, and I don't like to change history, but I think going forward, there needs to be a vision for how that park can be made healthy, strong, and beautiful, and more attractive, and open, and visible, and inviting. As part of the chamber, I interact with the businesses downtown, and I see the park. I'm also part of the Tuolumne County Transportation Council, and I know we have a bus stop that adds to some of the issues, and we're working on that as well. And with all that said, I think it comes time to deal with, for my other career, there are acceptable hazards, risks. I think you know about 3 or 4 trees that should be dealt with. The other 3, I'm not speaking to those. That's your decision. But I would ask that you take the actions that are necessary. I understand some of the phasing ideas, and I could probably subscribe to those. But I think some changes for the health and benefit of the park, downtown, and the businesses, and that whole area, including Courthouse, Yaney, Jackson, Washington, that whole area could be helped tremendously with some changes and boldness. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board now.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just a comment. Sharon was right to point out, Ms. Maravich was correct in pointing out that we are going to do the treatments that are recommended, along with limbing of the trees that remain. There are treatments that are called for by both arborists, and we would certainly intend to get those accomplished. That's the right thing to do for treatment of the trees. And it'll be interesting. We'll talk another time on the flagpole that's there. It is so congested in there, you hardly even know it's there. But roughly right in between number 15 and 16, these 2 trees to the north, that's where the flagpole is today. It is one of the tallest flagpoles I've ever seen in my life. We'll have to evaluate how steady it is, what kind of condition it's in. Have some concerns at its current height. Can we effectively use it and maintain it and that kind of a thing? But we will look at that as we start work on whatever it is that you direct.
Thank you. Board comment.
So I guess I'll start.
Okay.
I too want to thank staff. They've put a lot of time in on this because it is a focal point, for the county buildings here in the courts. But in my mind, there's really 3 things to consider here, and that is public safety. And we know we've got some hazard trees, and I think certainly with the city arborist concerns, we have the additional tree number
16.
Thank you. That needs to be put in that safety category. And then secondly, it's the overall health of the park moving forward. And I've talked to a lot of arborists, had a long conversation with Mike Albrecht, and what is the right density so that it will be healthy? Because as Supervisor Hanfield pointed out, there isn't the soil there to support the density of trees that is located on that small piece of ground. And so what is the correct density that will support and have healthy trees and allow us to, put hedges back in there and have just the overall health of the park. And then thirdly, doing it
within the constraints of the historical perspective. So I am confident. I want to thank you for reaching out to the state and confirming that they did agree that this was in keeping with the historical designation. And so, but the real question then comes to what is the right density within each one of those quadrants? And the folks that I've talked to have pretty much all agreed that 3 large trees within a quadrant is the maximum that we would want to have. So with that, I'd like to hear your opinions, and then I'll be prepared to make a motion.
Supervisor Havel.
Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you for the work. I mean, a lot of effort in there, and I want to thank people for the comments and the work they've done on this. I am concerned about having a healthy park and having that be an asset to the community. I go out there and I get concerned about the health of the trees. That's why I made the comment about sufficient ground and our density too high. There's no question in my mind, certainly the 4 trees that are designated as immediate hazards, the 3 red there and the deodora, have to come out. And I think they all need to be pruned. I am kind of cautious about go slowly and make sure that we're doing the right things, but the health of the park is important, and so I guess I yield to certainly the decision that the 3 yellow trees and the 4 hazard trees need to come out. The other 2, I think we can save that sequoia and see how it goes when we take the others out. Isn't competing, maybe we ought to do that. But long term, it has to be an asset and be good. And I do have a question, though. We didn't talk much, but in the briefing, we did talk about that we want to fix the sidewalks and the watering system and all that. That's included in the estimate. Is that correct?
Yes.
But I think we also need we need a general plan for continuing to maintain those trees on a regular basis. My father taught me in pruning trees that he says, son, he says, either you do minor surgery from time to time, called pruning, or you'll have to do major surgery. And that's where we are. We're doing major surgery, and we don't like it. It's painful. And so, but I think we need to go ahead and largely do what's been recommended, as painful as that sounds, because I don't like cut down trees either.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, I kind of concur with all of my contemporaries. One thing that I do want to make sure, because of the current water situation and looking forward to what can very simply be stated as an uncertain water future, I do want to encourage the staff to, in the plantings and whether it's grasses or ground covers or hedges or whatever, to consider drought-tolerant planting as much as possible. I think it just makes sense for us as a county to be good stewards of our water.
Fraser Royce, did you have anything? I'd like to comment. I believe that the trees that we cited, 11, 13, 17, and 16 as risk, we have cited those as risk. Those need to come down. 15, it makes sense too because it's probably a potential risk, but we can look at it closer at the time the other ones come out. As far as replanting, if we replant anything, I think it needs to be at least a 48-inch box tree, not 5-gallon can tree, something that be substantial to put in there. And then on the reseeding part, I'd like to see us use sod instead of trying to bring the seed out. It's less labor intensive, and I think we'd have a better chance. And you might look at creeping red fescue as a shade tolerant grass for in there. I think it's really important that we do the treatments, all of the things that were recommended within the report from the arborists. see if I missed anything. And I think that pretty much covers it, just my opinion.
Can I just inject one thing? I know this morning I was talking with Mr. Selden again, and he, much like arborist who did some work at my own home, was saying regardless of what we did with the trees in this specific plan, he said we really need to get water into that
point.
park because they need the water, or we'll have more distressed trees and more trees that will need to come out, and that's something we'll have to evaluate. All of our major trees like this, and it's been in the paper. We're seeing it all over the county. Trees without adequate water, they're just becoming distressed. This is a little different in that it's our focal point park, and we'll have to consider that as we move forward.
Make it a priority. We don't want to have to cut down another bunch of dead trees in a couple years. So.
Right.
Okay. Any other board comment? Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a clear direction and motion.
Well, I'll move on staff recommendation.
Can we clarify what that is?
Removal of 7 trees, and in an attempt to get us to a balance and a density that will support the other living trees that will be left.
Okay, just to clarify, what we're talking about would actually be removal of 8 with the replanting of 1 for a net of 7. And just to go through it, you have 13. So in the north quadrant, 13, 16, 15, and 17, with 16 being a replant in place of 16 to maintain symmetry, because that would leave you with 3 trees in that quadrant. And you'd remove 11 and 10 from this quadrant, 7 and 3.
Then I'm going to amend that to leave in 10.
To leave in 10.
So that we have that symmetry of 3 trees.
Okay. So removal of 7, replanting of 1.
Second.
We have first and second. Any other comment? Any public comment on the motion? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Will the clerk please read our 11 o'clock appointment?
Presentation on the Stanislaus National Forest by the Forest Supervisor, Jeannie Higgins.
Whatever is comfortable for you. Just push the button when you're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've asked, I'm Jeannie Higgins, Forest Supervisor for the Stanislaus National Forest. I've been here since early September. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. I also asked my deputy, Scott Tangenberg, to join me as well. I'm assuming that you've all met Scott. Scott's been here actually just about a year, correct? Okay. So we have the privilege and opportunity to manage and lead management of the Stanislaus National Forest jointly. So Supervisor Handvelt asked me to come and share my vision of the Stanislaus National Forest. And although I've had my head down, meeting people in the community, meeting employees, taking the opportunity to actually get out on the forest, I would say that vision is still very much a work in progress. But what I have discovered is that there's a very hardworking group of employees. There are communities that are very engaged with the forest and very much have a deep root and connection to the forest. And so the relationships that we have here are a wonderful foundation for us to effectively manage the forest into the long term. And so the vision is actually pretty simple, and it kind of goes to our mission, which is to maintain and secure sustainable forests for both the present and future generations. And that's not the mission directly, but that kind of sums it up, is that sustainable forests are important to our well-being, and having those forests available for us both now and in the future is really important. So along with that, though, comes a sustainable infrastructure to support management and access to the forest. So not only our recreation facilities, but the infrastructure that supports our use and access of the forest as well, which is both our road system as well as our trail systems, and certainly lots of other infrastructure that supports the community. So in the short term, our focus is on recovering from the rim fire. And we all know how devastating the rim fire was to our communities, to our economy, and to our forests. And so we have embarked upon a variety of different actions to begin that recovery process. And of course, one of the first and foremost was immediately after the fire to focus on burned area emergency rehab, and that was to try to stabilize the fire area from massive erosion, and which can lead to a whole variety of issues, including major issues with water quality. Good or bad, the drought situation has, at least to this point, prevented major mudslides and flood events from occurring that normally can follow a large wildfire. It doesn't mean that we are out of the woods yet. Those events could still happen. And so we have also work to do to continue with that watershed stabilization work. But we've also focused on salvaging timber from the fire area. We spent this last year completing an environmental impact statement and putting several timber sales together to salvage as much of the material as we possibly could. So the first thing we did was focus on hazard tree removal, and that work is almost largely complete. There's still some work going on there, and then the remainder is the salvaging of the remainder of the burned wood. In addition to harvesting timber, there's quite a bit of biomass to remove from the forest, which does not have the same value that timber does, and so we are searching for ways to effectively remove a lot of that material, in part to improve wildlife habitat, but also to reduce fuels and hopefully prevent major wildfires from occurring in the future. And then the effort that we're undertaking right now is the reforestation work and planning for reforestation, including the environmental analysis, and to allow us to reforest a very large portion of the burned area. So in addition to that, we're also looking at improving some other parts of the infrastructure that were impacted by the fire. That's recreational facilities, trails, watershed improvement features. We've also rebuilt miles of fence line to facilitate continued grazing in the area. And so there's a variety of work that's been capturing our attention related to RIM. But we also need to be looking at the rest of the forest. And so we have a large area called the Cornerstone Project that is within the Calaveras and Amador County area. And that is what's called a cooperative forest landscape restoration project, and very much focused on sustainable forest management and restoration of forests. So we are concentrating on also doing a large analysis to do forest thinning within the hemlock area, as well as some other areas, again, in the Cornerstone Project area. Aside from that, we have a variety of different projects that we're working on the forest, and we're also taking pause to look at where we need to be going in the next 5 to 10 years related to managing the forest. And so historically, we have had a 5-year vegetation management or timber plan to help guide us in terms of where we're going to manage vegetation, which includes fuel reduction project, prescribed burning, timber harvesting, and other kinds of treatments on the landscape. So obviously that plan that we had in place prior to rimfire needs to be revisited because it's really no longer valid. So our staff is sitting down in the next month to begin to look at that and revise that plan so we can begin to continue to treat the green forest so we can reduce fuels and improve the health of the forest. So we expect that we'll be able to more effectively communicate about that within the coming months. As I said, folks have had their head down focusing on RIM, and so haven't had much opportunity to lift it back up and really take a look at what the state of the work that we had planned previously and what the condition was. But that will be our focus in the coming months, in addition to the other things that we have talked about. We recently went through an effort to prioritize our work, and as I was summarizing all the work that we are trying to commit to doing this year, project-wise, it actually fills up 3 pages of project work. And so there's quite a lot of work that we anticipate getting done just this year. Last year, again, our focus was primarily around RIM, but this year we're trying to pick up a lot of the work that we had set aside in previous years and refocus our energies to get some other work accomplished. So, in order to be able to accomplish things on this list, partnerships and relationships within the communities are really important. There's a lot of wonderful established partnerships that we have that help us expand the capacity of work that we're able to do with the budgets that we have on the forest. And that is an important element to us being successful at actually accomplishing a vision that we might have for the forest. Another thing that will be coming up, maybe sooner than later, I'm not really certain about when we might launch, but our forest plan is in need of revision. And there is an expectation that we will begin that revision process within the next few years. Regional Forester Moore has asked us to consider accelerating that process and actually doing it sooner rather than later, and to actually revise the forest plans for the remainder of the Sierra Nevada forests. So some of you have been engaged and have been following the plan revision process for the Sierra, the Sequoia, and the Inyo National Forests. And they were what was called early adopters. So they took the new planning rule and began to implement that new planning rule in the plan revision process. And so lots of lessons learned there that could be applied to the revision process for the Stanislaus National Forest. But that's something that's in the future and maybe in the near future, is to start that process with revising our forest plan. There are a few other projects that are ongoing, and some of those will likely be coming to your attention within the coming months. One of them is an effort to develop a designated route system for snowmobile use. You're very familiar, I assume, with the travel management process we've been going through for wheeled motorized vehicle use and designating a route system for wheeled motorized vehicles. That's an ongoing process and will be for a while, but we did develop a motor vehicle use map. Based on some litigation and some settlement agreements, it's time for us to actually do the same thing related to over snow vehicles. So we expect to codify what we have likely in place now, but we need to go through an environmental analysis process, and that will likely be kicking off in March. We've had some initial public meetings trying to get a sense from the community about what's working, what's not working currently, so we can begin to develop a proposal. And we expect to begin the NEPA process in March related to over snow vehicle use. So that is generally where I see us going, not only this year, but in the coming years. And I'd like to actually provide the opportunity to interact with you, have you entertain your questions or comments or whatever you see fit. So.
Okay, we'll start board comments.
Starting on this end?
Sure. Well, it doesn't matter. Ladies first. Why not?
Oh, well, thank you, Jeannie, for coming. And I also want to thank you you have attended a number of our Natural Resource Committee meetings since you've been here, and your input is always appreciated at those meetings. You touched on a number of things, but two specifically kind of caught my ear, and it's your revision of the timber harvest plan. And I'm glad to hear that because from my perspective, we need to be looking forward and past RIM, and we all are very concerned about the overly dense forest that we have. And so I'm glad to hear that's front and center, and that you'll be moving forward with some timber plans outside of the rimfire footprint. And then lastly, I know fellow supervisors will be making a lot of comments, but the forest plan. Again, I would encourage you to start that sooner than later. I am concerned that the region is looking at a one-size-fits-all approach, starting with the southern Sierras and moving up the state. I just really caution against that. This forest is very different than the sequoia, as different from the northern or the north coast. And what works down on the sequoia doesn't or hasn't worked here. And we saw the ramification of a lot of that with the framework, where we kind of put a one-size-fits-all approach across the Sierras. And so look forward to future conversations and that planning process starting sooner than later.
Okay, Supervisor Rodefer.
Yes, thanks for coming, Jeannie. I would just like to say that I appreciate all the work that you and your staff have been doing, recovering from the rim fire and everything. And I also appreciate the increased interaction that we've had with your staff under your leadership, and I really appreciate that. Mary's been a breath of fresh air to our water committee, and I know you've been going to the natural resources committees as well. Pardon me. I would just like to put in context what I think ought to be sort of a holistic view of what we need to do in our forests. Forest resiliency is probably one of the things that's in the forefront of my mind, and really that's resiliency from the natural forces that can act on a forest. And I think that the proper management of the forests to decrease the frequency and the intensity of naturally occurring fires. Fire is a natural thing. I think it's really important that we get our forests down to something where a rimfire really doesn't have an opportunity to take hold at the intensity that it did. And I think that there's some synergisms with some of our local economic impacts as well. Things that you talked about, such as trail management, increases public access for recreation. It also has the potential to provide natural fire breaks and other things that help make a forest more resilient. Permittee access as well is very important. Our cattle industry is a cornerstone of our economy, and it's important that they also have public access, and it's fairly well documented in some credible studies that also increases resiliency of our meadows and other aspects of the forest. But I'd also like to emphasize the importance. You folks, the federal government, are the custodians of approximately 80 to 85% of the watersheds that feed the state of California its water. And the interaction that good forestry management has with good watershed management is very, very important. So I'm really interested in seeing us start to make some progress. I agree with you that I don't think that the Forest Service can do it on its own. I really don't. I don't think the federal government funds you enough to do it on your own. So I am encouraged to hear you talk about trying to reach out for some partnerships, and I hope that the County of Tuolumne can be a facilitator in that as well. So, but those are, I think, very, very important things. We need to just stop stovepiping our efforts into whether it's going to be increased forestry, thinning, taking trees out. We need to look at the whole picture, how our road infrastructure works, how our forest thinning works. You mentioned biomass, some of the other things. All of those things work together. And it's going to be absolutely crucial to the state of California, and certainly Tuolumne County, especially in the area of water, as whatever you want to call it, but the weather patterns change going forward. If we don't do something in our forests to capture more of the water that falls in the state of California and keep it in California, I love Nevadans and I love Coloradans, but I love Californians more.
Okay, Supervisor Hanville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for being here. And I want to acknowledge what I think is a new spirit of openness in the relationship we have with the Stanislaus National Forest. I have a page and a half of notes that I would like to just quick mention.
Be quick, please.
I'll try and be quick. I mean, clearly the forest is an important part of our community, and a lot of our socioeconomic values depend on the forest, most of them. And so, going forward, I mean, I'm worried about green harvest and being behind you, the Forest Service, for whatever reason, and for good reason, of course, it has been focused on rimfire recovery, for lack of a better term. But I'm also concerned that happened on the Tuolumne River watershed, and I'm worried about the Stanislaus River watershed. That's our county, too, as well as Calaveras, and I don't want to see a repeat. And we know that's possible, and we know it's possible because we've seen what's happened elsewhere. Rimfire was the harbinger, if you will, of what could happen, and we've seen it on the King Fire and then the fires up in Siskiyou County. And I know that those counties and those forests will compete for resources from Region 5 to do the same kinds of things that we've been doing. And I'm worried about that. And Randy Moore knows I'm worried about that. And so I guess what I'm suggesting is we need to work with you to make sure that the best interests of our community are getting taken care of. I don't want to take anything away from the other communities that need it, but we need to focus on getting the proper recovery. So I'm worried about the 120,000 acres that aren't going to be touched. I'm worried about green harvest. I'm worried about grazing. I'm worried about travel management plan. I'm worried about over the snow vehicles. That's a source of things here. And in my view, there's only 59 miles, as I recall, on the Stanislaus National Forest, groomed trails for over the snow vehicles, and I think that's inadequate. But I see the challenge, and I'm worried that portions of that will go away, where I think it should be considered for expansion. And I think that's important. I'm worried about noxious weeds. I know they're back in force out there, and our ag commissioners here, and we got to work together, because if one of us neglects noxious weeds, and the state, I think, is neglecting it, we're going to grow the other problem for the other side. So I'm worried about your budget. On the travel management plan, by the way, biomass too, I didn't want to leave that out. On the travel management plan, I'm worried about not the main roads, but the other roads and the access to the inner forest. I think that serves two purposes. I think it serves purposes for access for the public, recreation, the hunters, and all those people that want to go out there, the hikers. But it also, if those roads are remained in good condition, it gives you a chance to fight the fires when they do happen. I'm worried about the viability of the terrestrials. And Nathan Graveline's here, and Nathan manages for Fish and Wildlife, for one thing, the migratory deer herd on Jawbone Ridge. And by my conversations with him, I'm concerned about the viability of that herd. But that's a lot of what you do impacts that herd and some of the others. And I am very concerned that the regional management is putting pressure on you to quickly go after the new forest plan. And because when I went to the programs down on mostly it was the Sierra, but they were doing those together, they openly talked about cookie cuttering those forest management plans. That is insane to me. And it's insane because I don't know that we've ferreted out the lessons learned from rimfire. And clearly, we certainly haven't implemented countermeasures. But to take a plan that they might put together where they didn't look to me like they were increasing their harvest to avoid fires, and they haven't seen a rimfire equivalent. They saw something maybe 10% of that with aspen. But cookie cuttering, it doesn't make any sense to me. It has to be specific to the forest, and our forest conditions are substantially different. So let me just say that I would like to see us move forward in the spirit of coordination, and I know that regional management doesn't like that word, but if we practice what they do like to talk about and practiced it in reality, cooperation, collaboration, communication, and work together beforehand, not afterwards, I think we'd be a lot better off. We've talked about stewardship contracting, and I know you're going to bring some things to the Natural Resources Committee. We have to find ways to go and work together. And one of the things I challenge you is to tell us how Tuolumne County can help you get the job done in the best mutual interests of the forest and the county.
You gave us a lot to worry about. I said you gave us a lot to worry about. Supervisor Royce.
Yeah. I'll try to be short and sweet here. And first of all, like everyone said, thank you for being here. I really want to encourage as much of a working relationship with you guys as possible. I understand how difficult of a position you guys are in with the bureaucratic obstacles and challenges, and then all of the legal threats that you deal with. One of the things that frustrates me is the fact that you guys get sued and you end up in a position where you settle and do something basically to deal with those threats, and it's not always in the best interest of our communities but I understand why you end up in those situations. So I just want to say we want to be supportive, as was mentioned. We want to see progress in our forests. We want to see a balanced management of our forests and help support you with that. And the thing that I would ask more than anything is to please be as transparent as possible with us. And we understand those things and what the obstacles, whether it's funding or it's legal threats or whatever it may be, that you have to deal with, and the realities of those things. But if we understand them and you're open about that as much as possible as you can be, it's easier to trust you. I know through the rim fire and even before that, there's always been kind of in the community a lack of trust with the Forest Service, and I think that's just the nature of bureaucracy and so forth. But if you can just be as open as possible, it helps and goes a long way. So thanks for being here.
Okay, I'll be real short. I think just having you here is the most important thing, and being open with us is also important. But we're here not to hinder. We're here to help. Whatever we can do as a county to help you get your job done, that's what I want to be able to do. You have a monumental task. You had it before the rim fire. You had a big task. And what I worry about is whether or not you're going to have the funding to do the things that you need to do. And that's something that when we look at the way the Forest Service takes the fire, the money that's spent to put out the fire, takes it out of your budget, something's got to change there. And I don't know what we can do to help that, but I think that's important, because without the funds, you can't do the logging operations, you can't do the trail, you can't do any of this stuff. And if they're taking your money away to put for the fire that was already gone, it's going to be hard. So what can we do to help get that done? That's all I have to say. Public comment, it's your chance. Looks like it's good. Yeah. Any other board comments?
Just work with us. We'll work with you.
And thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the opportunity. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. All right, can we go back to item number 22. Mr. Pedro, we have enough time to do that?
Yes, sir.
All
Okay.
right.
It is presentation regarding Tuolumne County participation in the National Disaster Resiliency Competition.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I believe this is something that your board's well aware of, but again, just for the public and for the board's edification and any questions that you may have, wanted to just talk about something that's come to the forefront in recent months called the National Disaster Resiliency Competition. This is a opportunity to compete for up to $1 billion of funding being made available through the federal government. I think the minimum grant is like $1 million. The maximum grant, which could be a group of projects, could be up to $500 million. This is something that was created in Washington in response to many of the nationally declared emergencies throughout the country. The folks that are eligible to be considered for this grant are those that were declared as a presidential declaration of emergency in the years 2011 through 2013. My office was notified about this pretty late. It was in October through state officials asking if we would be interested in participating in an application, and we literally had 2 days, to put together a packet, which single-sided would be about an inch deep, that was just to tickle state officials on the depth of the damage that our community suffered, both in terms of impact on private businesses, the ecological damage, to our forest, damage to public facilities, and so forth. The package that we, in 2 days, were able to put together totaled somewhere around $28 million, and that by no way represents all the needs, the damage, the opportunities that our community faces. So that application went in actually to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, and things went real quiet until just a couple of weeks ago. The state was evaluating which project that they would support developing an application for. And in the state of California between 2011 and 2013, there were 3 nationally declared emergencies. One was a tsunami that affected 3 coastal counties, and then there was flooding that affected 13 counties, and then we had the rim fire that directly impacted 2 counties, but also indirectly impacted a number of surrounding counties and states. And what the governor's office decided to do was to throw their support behind the 2013 rim fire and an application based upon that emergency. So we began working just about a week ago and putting together some stakeholder forums locally, where last Wednesday we were able to meet with representatives from the forest industry, folks that had water interests, some of our fire officials, and so forth, to have some focus time with folks from the state, on this. And then we were able to hold on Thursday a stakeholder meeting, which was attended by roughly 40 folks from within our community, representing all types of interests that were impacted by the rim fire. And the focus was, what would it take to recover from the rim fire, and also what would help us become a more resilient community where we would be better positioned in order to react to and recover from a future emergency of that magnitude. And it was very encouraging during that meeting to hear all these various stakeholders that really had the best interest, much in the same tenor your board just expressed. They wanted everyone to come together no matter what their interest, private, nonprofit, environmental, development, whatever the interest, and to come together and help put ideas on paper as to what would help us recover the quickest and the best from RIM and become a more resilient community, both not just within the fire footprint, but the entire community. And I don't have the notes from that meeting. Actually, a team of state, county, and federal officials are meeting in Seattle over the next 3 days with folks from the Rockefeller Foundation who are helping to provide some consulting assistance to start putting those thoughts that were taken down at Thursday's stakeholder meeting and begin to put together a draft application on behalf of the state focused on the 2013 rim fire. The general outline of this will be, or the timeline, is they will come out with a draft application the middle of next month, and middle of February. They'll have public comment periods on that, and then an application will be prepared and submitted to Washington, HUD, as the base agency, Housing and Urban Development. That'll go in on March 16. We will find out in June. That'll be part of a nationwide application process. If they like what they've seen in June, hopefully we'll hear that they did, and we'll be invited to put in a revised, more detailed final application that will have to be submitted towards the end of the coming summer, and then we should hear in December whether or not we have been selected for awards related to this competition. So it's an exciting opportunity. It could do a lot of good within the forest, outside of the forest. Again, all sectors of our community. Again, short term to recover from what just happened. Long term, what can we do to make our community more resilient? And I don't want to get him swelling his head too much, but I'm thinking of Supervisor Handbelt, because when we started opening comments on Thursday, I was thinking very much what he always asked the question: what's your measure of success? And one was just the fact that all those different stakeholders got together, made that a success with that same vision in mind. Second is if we actually can come up with a plan for our community that everyone can get behind, that would be a huge, measure of success unto itself. Third would be if we can secure some of this funding through this particular grant, and it's just that, it's a grant competition, no slam dunk, but that would be a huge success. But as members from the Governor's Office of Planning and Research mentioned, if we come out with a plan, and whether we get funding through this resiliency program or not, we have a plan that we can then use as a blueprint, not only for Tuolumne County, but other counties within our state. And then we can look for other funding opportunities, be it federal, state, or local, that we can pursue in order to make this plan, come to life. So those are three levels of success that I see coming out of this, and we already, I think, succeeded with that meeting last week, and look forward to the plan that comes out for public comment here in about a month. So that's kind of what's happening. Very excited about it. This presents an opportunity that is unique to my experience and working in county government, and really look forward to the outcome.
Supervisor Hanveld.
Yeah, this, I think, caught us all a little off guard. But this is what I call the bluebird of opportunity. And the bluebird's here, so let's take advantage of the bluebird, see if we can't capture them. What I'm concerned about, and I'm saying this for some of the public, but I think that because of the short notice, some of the interests that could have input perhaps couldn't make those meetings. And my question then is just, how do we get them? How do we get their input and get it into the game, or are we already past that?
No, there's still opportunity. We can reach out, and I'll take this as directive to make sure that we do, to reach out to folks that we knew could not come to that stakeholders meeting. But there will be the draft will come out next month, and people can absolutely are encouraged to submit comments to that, and that draft plan will then be tweaked and submitted into a final plan, so we can get that input worked into that plan.
Any other board comments? Okay, I was concerned about that issue also, and I believe that now that it's more people know about it, we're probably going to see a few more things. I hope so, and it would be really exciting if we can get some of that money to fix some of the things that really need to be fixed. Any public comment? Seeing none, there's no action item. Thank you, Mr. Pedro. Will the clerk please read our 11:45 appointment?
Consideration of adopting a resolution recognizing Agricultural Commissioner Seals of Weights and Measures, Air Pollution Control Officer, Animal Control Director Vicki Helmar on her retirement.
Okay. I guess if we don't pass this resolution, she can't retire? Is that the way it works?
Do you need a motion?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, I move that we approve the resolution recognizing Vicki Homar on the occasion of her retirement for just some incredible service to the citizens of Tuolumne County, and for being a paragon of leadership to the people that had, I think they would universally say, the good fortune to work for her.
And we have a second.
Could I also make a comment?
Sure.
And that I echo what Supervisor Rutherford said. Working with Vicki is interesting. You find people who are dedicated and committed public servants, and she exemplifies that to the nth degree. I see her at evening meetings when most people are home, and of course you can argue that she can't afford to drive home and drive back. It's such a long way, so she stays. But Vicki's always there, and for her service and her commitment, I just want to say thank you as I second that motion.
And I would just add my thanks to all of the efforts and representation that Vicki has given this county, and I am so thankful that she is not relocating and that she is staying in the area.
All right. I think we ought to vote, I guess. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. I'm going to read this resolution. I went and got my glasses so I could actually see it. I couldn't see the last one. So, whereas on April 15, 2008, the Board of Supervisors appointed Vicki Hillmore as Tuolumne County's Agricultural Commissioner, Sealer, Weights and Measures, Air Pollution Control Officer, and Animal Control Director. After completing her initial four-year term, Mrs. Hillmore was reappointed to a second term April 17, 2012. And whereas, after 39 years of working in the field of agriculture, with 33 of those years working in Agricultural Commissioner's Office in San Joaquin County, 26 years, at Tuolumne County, 7 years, Mrs. Hillmore has chosen to retire from her public career and take a turn at farming her own property in Mariposa County. Her last day with the county will be January 23, 2015. And whereas, with regard to her work in Tuolumne County, Mrs. Hillmore may be best remembered for the following: resolving issues that delayed the conversion of Williamson Act contracts and processing a large backlog of renewals, revised the format and content of the Tuolumne County Crop Report, updated existing and drafted new documents impacting agriculture in Tuolumne County, such as the ag element of the general plan, agricultural zoning ordinances, right to farm ordinances, farm labor housing criteria, and agritourism policy, evaluated and modified all guidelines and procedures for the Agriculture Commissioner and Weights and Measures Division of her office, developed and implemented programs targeted at the eradication of specific invasive toxic weeds, and established a GIS database and mapping system for the invasive and weed species in Tuolumne County. Exercise fairness, resolve, and common sense in her regulatory role that well served both the residents and businesses community of the county. Effectively guided her department through the Great Recession, the most difficult financial period of our lifetimes. Serves as an effective advocate for the agricultural community through several years of drought conditions and the 2013 rim fire. Special note should be made that her service to the local agriculture community during rim fire occurred in the midst of her own home in Mariposa County being placed under evacuation order. And whereas Mrs. Hillmore is indeed a special person who came to Tuolumne County at the right time with her unique skills, experience, and warm, caring personality that engendered trust and respect from all who came into contact with her. All of this enabled her to accomplish much of her relatively short time with us, and now therefore be it resolved that the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors wishes to thank and commend Agricultural Commissioner, Sealer, Weights and Measures, Air Pollution Control Officer, Animal Control Director, Vicki Hillmore for exemplary service to the County of Tuolumne and residents, and be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors wishes Vicki and her family great happiness and enjoyment in retirement. Adopted Board of Supervisors, County of Tuolumne on January 20th, 2015. After I present this, we're going to give the public a chance to say anything, only if it's bad. We have said it, yeah, only if it's bad.
This is my one chance. The Academy Awards. Supervisor Hanvelt and I were thinking, but could we do an alternate motion to make you serve your full 8 years?
I didn't have a contract for the second floor.
Dang. Well, anyway, I'll keep it brief, but it's been an absolute pleasure working with Vicki. Sometimes I think we got cheated because we didn't hire you sooner. I mean, the short time you've been here, you've accomplished so much, and it's been just a pleasure working with you. As you know, I always mention there's three things I evaluate with people especially in this kind of a position. The top of the rung is character, a person of character. You hit that with spades. You're honest, you're hardworking, you're straightforward. You listen to folks, you consider what they have to say. You're just a model for what you do. Competency, you just knock it out of the park, Vicki, and you're smart enough to know if you don't know something like in air pollution control, I know that was something that concerned you a lot. You stepped up to the plate. What you didn't know, you learned. And again, you just conducted yourself remarkably, with that. And then as far as chemistry, being able to get along with it, anyone. You can get along with anyone, even in difficult circumstances. And again, you represented the county so well. And I'm really going to miss you. Really excited for you in retirement. Hope to see you around a little bit.
You will.
So thank you.
Vicki Helmar, soon to be retired agricultural commissioner, etc. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all. Being a department head is not an easy thing, and I have enjoyed your support for all of these years. You've helped make my job easier. You've always listened to me. We haven't always agreed, but you've always listened to me. I appreciate the support not only you've given me, but my department and the ag community we have here in Tuolumne County, because it is a fantastic ag community. I want to thank them as well, because they have made my job here very fulfilling and rewarding. I've had almost a 40-year career in agriculture, and this was the best way to top it off, to go out, retire, was to be Tuolumne County's ag commissioner, etc. I also want to thank my staff, my air pollution, ag, and animal control staff, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to do half of what I think we've accomplished in the past 7 years. So I just thank you all. This really means a lot to me. And I will be around because I am growing tomatoes, and I need you guys to support my agricultural endeavor.
You're Mariposa County.
Hey, I'm right on the border. I can sneak it in. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I do feel like a prom queen for the first time in my life.
Okay, any public comment?
There we go. Get back up there, Vicki.
Jennifer Clark, Animal Control Manager, and in case people don't know her, Terry Elam, Supervising Animal Control Officer. I can't tell you what a privilege it has been to work with Vicki Helmar. Besides the obvious how hardworking she is, how dedicated she is simply the nicest person you'd want to meet. And we're all going to miss her. We wish her much happiness in her retirement, and we do hope that she comes back and we'll be seeing her. Plus, I still have to take her to lunch.
Thank you.
Morning, I'm Paul Rainey, senior agricultural biologist. I've worked with the county here 20 years, the last 7 years with Vicki Helmar, and if I could sum up one word in working with her is integrity. And what she brought to this department, and the improvements I saw over, not to disparage the previous commissioners, but what she brought over and above that, and just her leadership style. Well, leadership is you're an example, and she was the best example of hard work and just level-headed thinking and thoroughly going over all the details of anything and that's what we followed. And I just want to say she's going to be very missed in the department. I'm happy that we'll have Gary coming along and we'll have some consistency there. But again, it's been a real pleasure for all of us in the department working with Vicki. Thank you.
Bob Brennan, President of the Tuolumne County Cattlemen's Association, and we really would like to thank Vicki for all she's done. Everybody's kind of hit all the points, but she's a real lady. She's been a lot of fun to sit down. All of our issues, some of them haven't been fun. And when she said she can work with everybody, she can work with everybody. And she's going to be missed. And the Tuolumne County Farm Bureau. Anybody that could stay at a Farm Bureau meeting to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and I don't think she hardly ever missed one, drive all the way back to Greeley Hill and be at work the next morning. We're really going to miss you. You did say you aren't leaving Farm Bureau, correct? On the record.
I'm still a dues-paying member.
Anyone else?
Hello, Marion Zimmerly. I am on the Board of Directors for Farms of Tuolumne County, which is a local nonprofit that promotes local ag and agritourism. And it's been a tremendous pleasure to work with Vicki these past 7 years. She is so accessible, and we appreciate her wisdom, the amount of information she has, and her dedication to agriculture. She's always been supportive of us, and a real pleasure. We helped minutely, but we did help a little bit with the general plan, the ag element of the general plan, and the amount of work she put into it is just amazing. And she's going to be missed tremendously. Thanks, Vicki.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Drew Raymond, and I'm a senior ag biologist. I work with Paul and Vicki. I guess I'm part of her legacy. She hired me 5 years ago as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid right out of college. And she's really just taught me so much about professionalism and what it means to grow as a professional in the workplace. And I'd really like to thank her for that and everything that I've grown to become. Is a lot of it because of her.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do you feel the love yet?
Bev Shane, Community Resources Director. Vicki said that it's hard being a department head, and she's got that right. But you would never know that. She was always a professional. She made it look easy. And my office worked with Vicki's office on so many things, not just on ag issues and Williamson Act, but also air pollution and on code compliance issues involving animals. So we have a lot of ties together. But Vicki came in to this position with very little knowledge of the Williamson Act. And yet we just adopted the new Williamson Act regulations and went through 400 applications, processing them with people wanting new contracts. And I'll tell you, she, right at the beginning, said, I don't know this well, but you would never know it. And right off the bat, she took the time to learn and to become an expert in a field. And I've been so impressed working with Vicki because she's not afraid to take on those challenges. And she takes them on, and she succeeds and does them very well, and again, makes them look easy. And it's been really fun working with Vicki over the last 7 years, and I'm going to miss her greatly. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any final words there, Vicki?
Just want to say thank you for all the kind words today. Like I said, this has been a big part of my life the last 7 years. I'm going to miss everybody terribly. And again, I can't thank the board enough for all the support that you've shown me, my department, and agriculture. Agriculture is so important in this county, and I really appreciate having a board who was behind me 100%. Thank you.
And thank you. So we're going to adjourn to the hallway, and please stay, and then we'll be. Meeting is back on, and we're going to have the clerk read the 1:30 appointment.
Presentation of the baseline fiscal year 2015 through 2016 through fiscal year 2019 through 2020 multi-year budget forecast.
Okay, good afternoon. Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office. So today we have before you an update. We've done this every year for the last few years of the multi-year budget. So I'll begin going through to the slides, and as you have questions, please stop me and ask me those questions. And of course, at the end, it's open for further questions after that. So you do, in front of you, have a copy of the presentation itself and then the key assumptions, and we'll go through those starting right now. So each year when we go through the multi-year budget, we start out with looking at the national economy, and we go to different economists out there, and we look at those who are some of the most respected. Diane Swank is one of those. In the few that I did review, most of them are saying some of the same information, and they're looking at that we are seeing our economy is slowly getting better. And one of the things that Diane Swank has said that I thought a few of you might appreciate, she just says economic expansions are like fine wines. They improve with age. So what a lot of the economists are stating is that it's good that this economy, after we just went through this recession, that we're going slow. It's not this great big boom that we've seen in the past. It's slowly taking place. Talking about unemployment slowly decreasing. And that one of the things that Diane Swank also hit on was that many times people forget to really take into account that federal, state, and local governments' impact on budget, meaning that they employ a large percentage of the population. And so with the decrease we saw in all of those governmental employees, we're also starting to see those starting to increase, and that is having an impact on the economy as well. Also stating that the U.S. dollar is performing very well against other currencies, a euro dollar, and in Japan at this point, and they're expecting that will continue throughout this next 15-16 year. And a few other things is we're seeing auto sales. Many of us are seeing a lot more new plates out there, so they're saying that the auto sales are up 40% compared to 2010. And we are seeing a housing market is getting better. And further down, we'll look at what that means locally. Karen Burkhart had sent some great statistics to us that we can share with you. One of the other things that a few of them are speaking to is that the change in the types of jobs that we're seeing is in going from what used to be manufacturing and construction, seeing more of health care related jobs and technological type jobs. So whether that be computers, systems, and just where the whole information world is taking us. And then we look at this Congressional Budget Office. They're mirroring very much what we're seeing from the other economists, that we're going to see the unemployment rate drop. They're saying down as low as 5.6% in 2017. And right now, the inflation's still well below where the federal economists would like to see it be, and the Federal Reserve, it's at 2%. And for the first time, we're seeing the Federal Reserve is contemplating raising interest rates, and they're talking about the latter half of 2015. So this year, we may see as much as a 0.25% increase in our rates. And our health and welfare costs continue to grow. We all continue talking about the baby boomers, and a lot of them, as we're seeing just in our own county, people are retiring. And it's in the next 5 years, we'll see more of that. And in fact, the federal government itself is looking at 85% increase and our Social Security. And then, of course, Medicare being increased just the same like amount. And right now, the spending package is $1.1 trillion, and we have a 1% increase in discretionary spending. And we're talking about minor impacts to Tuolumne County. What the biggest things we're all talking about here locally is PELT, and we know that that's been included in this one-year budget, and it's not including anything going forward at this point. And SRS has not been included in any bills so far to this date. And then we'll go to the state economy. We'll look at several of these as well. We all see the gas prices right now have plummeted, and that has not been included in any of the projections going forward as what that potential impact may be on gas taxes and our abilities to collect those taxes for road maintenance. We're looking at unemployment from about 7% in 2014, maybe going down to 6.6% in 2016. Not a huge difference, but still decreasing. And this also speaks at the state level that we're seeing a change in our workforce from our construction and manufacturing to information. And the drought, as much as we are seeing the drought impacts, what they're telling us is for the ag community that it's not as hard hit quite yet. We wait to see what that will look like in this 14-15 and 15-16 year. And they actually spoke specifically to the San Joaquin Valley, and I did speak with Gary, our new ag commissioner, and he did say they're seeing a slight impact this last year because they have better water rights down there. But again, not knowing what that will look like as we go forward. And speaking into the state and local governments, we're seeing them stabilizing and a slight increase in discretionary spending. And then we're going to get to the governor's budget, which was released last Friday. So overall, we're seeing a 4.9% increase in the revenues, and that's primarily due to the three primary drivers, which is your sales, private, and corporate income taxes. General fund spending is increased by 1.4%. And when you get into more detail of the governor's budget, you'll see that he is putting more in the rainy day fund. Fund balance is a little bit larger. And when you look at the way that the appropriations have changed from 14-15 to 15-16, some have been decreased as much as 50%, while other areas have been increased as much as 50% as the other direction. So a lot of change. Education is a big driver in this year's budget. Paying the pre-2004 mandates. So in the CSAC budget outlook, they let us know that so far the anticipated allocation for that additional funding for Tuolumne County would be $734,000, and we'll speak more to that as we get further into the presentation. AB 109 continues small growth, but it's still at least some growth there. Drought's a big subject in the governor's budget. We know we had the water bond, and then a small amount of $115 million. When I say small, we saw that with our state water board, had about that much last year, and in 6 months it had been used up doing projects that we all saw here locally with Tuolumne Utilities District, Groveland Community Services District. And then small allocation, but there's still one in there of $10 million for fairgrounds, and that's for both deferred maintenance and operations. And I threw in this one, this was a big point in all three of the overviews from CSAC, RCRC, and the legislative office, is the 7% across the board restoration for in-home supportive services for those hours that were cut last year. Any questions on any of that before we go to county?
Just one thing, doing a quick math on that $10 million for state fairgrounds, and how many state fairgrounds are there? You're not talking about a whole lot of money going back to our fairground in any case.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, do we know specifically how much is going to go to each county yet?
I haven't seen anything yet in any of the analyst review.
We have someone coming forward here.
I'd like to point out that this is for state fairgrounds. Not every fairground in the state of California is a state fairground. There are district fairgrounds, fair districts, which we are 29th Fair District. So this is just for the state-operated fairgrounds, not for those many, many district fairgrounds.
Thank you for the clarification. So no money.
Okay, so we'll go into the county budget. So last year, we've shown each year we've gone through what are the local and unemployment rates, and we compare to those counties next to us. So this was updated, got this from the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, and we're at 7.2% as of November of 2014. And that's pretty good when you compare it to all the others. The state shows that the United States was at 5.8, and of course that's an average of everyone, but 7.2 is where we are right now, and you can see some of the others as high as 12.3%.
Do you know what the non-participation rate is?
I do not.
That would be useful information in the
Okay.
future.
And this is where I was saying Karen Burkhart, who is great, she got me this information very quickly. So we compared 2013 to 2014 and our sales locally here and with real estate. You can see the number of sales have decreased a little bit, but going from number of private sales have increased, and the bank-owned sales and short sales have decreased substantially. Then working with Larry Cope, our Economic Development Director, he helped us with what are some of the highlights from our local economy, some of the changes that we saw, some of the new businesses that came in. I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you know we saw some new food establishments, the new Panda Express. There's a new Westside Pizza in Tuolumne. And then some various changes within some new Dollar General in Jamestown. And then all of the public projects that will be going on, and some of them are still happening. So we had all of the school bonds that there have various projects taking place, as well as the Mono Way, Pinecrest Lake improvements last year, and then all of the different projects for Rimfire, and those continue. And then what do we have that is coming up that could affect our local economy here? So Rush Creek Lodge, we know they're working on that they started last year, and they continue to work on that now. Blue Mountain Minerals, our own juvenile detention center, which they are expecting to break ground, I believe, in 2015. They'll break ground. And then SRMC, they continue to look at their overall expansion and changes that they're doing there. And, of course, our local Economic Development Authority continues to look at growth and attraction. Okay, so getting into our own budget here, looking at, we have $168 million budget, and how much does your board have discretion on using? And of that, there's $42 million, so about 25% that you have discretion of funding that you can use. And then we show how it's broke down below, so 28% goes to general government. Public protection, 48.5%, that ranges, usually stays around 50%. Libraries and recreation, $2.5 million. Transfers to other funds at almost 15%, and contingencies at 2.6%. And this contingency is what was based on as adopted. It does not reflect the difference that was made when your board voted to, I think it's about $100,000 for the assessor's office for the grant for the staffing. So that has been changed, but it's not reflected. This is where we were at adoption. And then transfers to other funds does contain like our capital, road funds, also the realignment transfers that come in and then go back out for health and human services. So what are we looking at as we move forward into going these future budgets that you'll be seeing? We know that while the economy is getting better, it's still fragile. It's slow, but it is steadily improving. Gas prices, we're not really sure what impact those may have and how long. While we're seeing a decrease in the gas prices, what the good part of that is that gives individuals more spending money into the community and buying those things and doing what they need to do. So it may offset the one into the other, and that's what we're not sure how that will play out. Impacts of future bargaining as we work through the class and comp study. And then, of course, we've come before you many times on the funding long-term liabilities, such as PERS and workers' comp, and we'll be bringing to you pretty soon the debt and liability session, so the presentation, so you can have an update on that. We've talked about water supply, and then looking at providing match dollars for future capital projects, such as the jail, the juvenile center, airport, and some of these other items, such as new budget systems and other information systems. Okay, so we'll go into the multi-year forecast. In front of you, you have the major assumptions. It's about 2.5 pages. So what's important to know is that when we put this out to our department heads and to their budgeting staff, we ask them to keep it at status quo. No new staff have been added. This is today's staff at tomorrow's dollars. We have, and then it goes through what did we do with some of the revenues. As always, the revenue team met, and we sit down and we go through all of the key general revenues to look at trends and where do we think we may be going into the future. So you do see a slight, not a slight, it's a moderate increase in what we've seen in the past for sure for sales tax and TOT. PILT and SRS are in all 5 years of this budget, so we need to watch those carefully as we go forward. And then rates, we've come before you multiple occasions on this. PERS rates continue to grow. Juvenile Detention Center, what we look at is doing the hiring in late 15-16 with a full year of operation in 16-17. And then HSA continues to manage with the small amount of MOE that they get. And we're going, any questions on any of the assumptions as we go forward? There are many others in what you have in front of you, such as the fire and roads contains $250,000 for heavy equipment for each year, and the Sheriff's Department has $250,000 in each year for vehicles. So as we go forward and you're looking at capital and some of these others, keep that in mind that there is a small amount built into those three funds or three departments for those items. What we do want to bring before you before we get into all the other funds is Human Services Agency. This, again, remember, this is a projection, and we just wanted to bring it to your attention. We're working with staff, but they are projecting that in fiscal year 17-18, going forward, that social services and public health could potentially go negative. So, meaning that they know that they need to watch where are the revenues, what are the expenditures, and manage those carefully. And we're just bringing this to your attention so you're aware of it. If you have any questions, I know that Ann and Steve are in the audience that they could answer.
Just real quick, is that a result of reallocation of funds due to the Affordable Care Act?
Supervisor Rotifer, actually it is not. In fact, there's some enhanced revenue because of the Affordable Care Act. Primarily it's due to placement costs for our juveniles, and secondly, it's due to the fact that we're building the budget as if we have fully staffed in there from July 1st to June 30th. We don't have that.
Okay, so here's the multi-year budget for all of our combined funds. So as we go across, you see it looks as if there's a shortfall in 15-16 beginning, but this, considering that we normally end the year with our contingency fully funded or almost fully funded, you'll see where we subtract that back out. But each year, you'll see in 15-16, 16-17, you see where it looks as if we go into the red. And then in 17-18 forward, general revenues begin to outpace our expenses there outside of the contingency that we add back in. So it does get better as we go forward. Then in now when we see the road fund and fire fund, you'll see that the revenues are not keeping pace with the expenses. Remember that each of those years do contain $250,000 for the heavy equipment, as I said earlier. So that is already in that number. But it does give us something that we know we need to work with as we go forward. Oh, Jamestown, sorry. The Jamestown Fire Station remains fully funded in each of these years, even without the grant funds in there. So that does remain operational.
Commendable idea.
Thank you. Do you have any questions on this? Do you want to?
Just a comment. Again, look at the general fund line where it says net general fund, problem. It's positive. And as I was reminded by a member of the board recently, well, that's what you told us if we stayed stuck to it. And the board has made the hard decisions, and that is positive. I wish I could say the same of road and fire, but those have fundamental revenue issues, challenges. But you can see that the melding of the general fund with those funds, we're almost balancing in each of those years, and certainly in years 4 and 5, we're positive, and that's really good compared to when we started this. This is wonderful.
Hence the smile on your face, right?
Sir, absolutely.
Light at the end of the tunnel. Question on the road fund, fire fund. It's obviously not going to get better, and when is the time that we really seriously look at addressing that shortfall?
Well, I think there's an opportunity we had that discussion about fire, and I've got to come back with a list of activities we're going to do and when they're going to be done. And one of those chores was a request for proposal for some consulting assistance to look at all the fire departments in the county, not just ours. I think it's in that context that we'll come up with some kind of at least a recommended solution.
All right, thank you.
On the road fund, I'm watching it. I think a lot of us are watching it. But do you see any movement at the federal and state level to come to a decent solution on basic infrastructure funding across the levels of government?
I've heard more discussion in the last year than I've heard in the past 5 or 6, but I've seen no bills, no concrete proposals. But I'll take some encouragement that both levels, state and federal, are at least having serious discussion about it. Yeah.
So not to pick on bad news here, but just keep in mind for the road fund, that does include the SRS funding. And should that not be renewed, that could be as much as $300,000 worse for each of those years. So just to
And PILT's about 2.4.
2.5, yeah.
$2.5 million. So that's pure general fund, purely discretionary revenue source. If that goes away, that would be a bad thing officially.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say with the current congressional makeup that those will be addressed. The last conference call that I was in on, NACO WIR conference call, the Senate is holding up consideration of SRS to basically ensure that it addresses not just the funding for SRS, but the need to fundamentally retie it to some meaningful forestry management issues. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a delay in getting that funding, but I think the good news is that it'll get tied to the right stuff for a change.
Okay, so as we move forward, the next slide is, as you see where we end, and I did carry that bottom line for combined shortfall, operating shortfall, but then begin looking at some of the commitments that we have related to law and justice that are not in the multi-year budget.
Let me pick it up from here. And this is very purposeful in the title saying commitments, because we're in process of bidding, juvenile. We're also moving forward with Tuolumne County Transportation Agency on Justice Center Drive extension and the new transit center. I'm sure your board sees it this way too. We're committed to move forward with the new county jail, though we're still working on exactly what that scope is and the funding, for it. But these are things that I think your board, would agree. These are commitments that we're moving forward on, and that's why it's put that way. It's not just, as I phrased in the past, what's not in there. That was more of things that we'd like to do. These are things. It's a stronger statement. These are commitments that we have. Let me just explain on the juvenile detention center. That's mainly equipment. That's everything else has been funded in this year's budget. This is next year now that you're looking at in fiscal 16. So that's primarily equipment and some different fees that we need to pay. Then you'll see Justice Center Drive extension. Takes it to where Gardella Ranch, road will pick up, and there's going to be a turn bulb and all that. This would be net of some carryover that I believe we'll have in the capital fund. That your board put some money aside this year. So that's estimating that cost at just short of $1.5 million. And then some of this is kind of guesswork. We'll know more with each month as we work with our architect on the jail project and with the Board of State and Community Corrections on funding. But you'll see the Justice Center site and jail road. That's where we would do rough grading of where the future justice buildings are going to go, because they're going to need that cut in order to fill on the jail site. And then we'll have to build basically a driveway through that property with utilities under it. And then you see new jail county match. This is solely based upon the 1022 grant as we submitted it. We had about a $16 million match. We've committed to and funded approximately $1 million for this year, the one that we're in. So that leaves about $15 million to go over the next few years. And again, it's a guess of how quickly we will need this money. I'm showing that we'll still be pretty much in design and kind of duking it out with the state architect's office and others for a couple years based on, Mo's efforts trying to get the Shepherd, the juvenile facility through. It always takes longer than you want. But this assumes that we'd actually get to building in 17, 18. Be glad if that would happen sooner. We'll know more with each. And I'll get to that. But you can see, so this is just the county match. And then the jail operations, we've been showing that in prior reports at about $600,000 annually. That's the increase, and that's primarily medical, food, and those kinds of things. I bumped that a little bit. This reflects like a partial year in 19, full year in 2020. Again, we'll know more as we actually, study this and get closer. But you can see the bottom line numbers over this 5-year period. We're looking at somewhere just shy of $21 million, and about $20 million of that is capital. And things like roads you can't finance, buildings you can. In the left-hand corner, bottom corner, you see funding options, one-time and ongoing operating cash. Particularly on jail operations, it's got to be operating cash. You need ongoing revenue to pay for ongoing expense. If we were to borrow for some of this, again, we can't borrow for all of it, but some of it, we'll need debt service payments for that. We continue to pursue AB $900, nothing that can be shared publicly at this point. Still working on that, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to secure some of that money, and that could help drive some of the county match requirement that you see on the screen, down. We could finance using existing buildings, and I've mentioned this in the past, and that was in our letter of assurance to the state. But if we were to actually borrow for, say, that $15 million, that's the equivalent of putting our 3 largest buildings up and basically selling them and having them leased back and paid over 20 years. That is pushing us to probably our maximum debt capacity if we did that. That doesn't, as I'm sitting here and I've said this before, it doesn't make me feel good. I'm hopeful that we can get some of that additional AB 900 money, be able to apply it to bring our net match down and set some one-time money aside and do less through borrowing. Because I am really concerned. Something I'm very proud of is we have very little debt in Tuolumne County, very little fixed costs that would be a load on our budget. And this is a really important area that we've got to watch and not position ourselves to where all of a sudden we go from very little debt to maximizing our debt capacity in the county. And I'm not recommending that, but that's an option that we have discussed. And I already mentioned jail or some combination of the above. So as we get further into these projects, particularly the jail planning and the funding for that, we'll be able to refine this. But this is the big point here is it's a big commitment of our future budgets per board direction.
Okay. With that said, that is the last slide, and we're open for any questions.
Well, let me just mention before we go question. Where do we go from here? This is again, Tracy said it. This is just showing today's staffing and programs at tomorrow's cost with tomorrow's revenues. This is our baseline. As our budget process proceeds, you'll have opportunity to have discussions during your retreat, and then we'll have opportunities in February where your board can ask us to lay in other costs and try some different scenarios. But this is just a baseline to give you an idea. If you did nothing more than continue existing staff and programs, this is what we're looking at.
Any questions? Any public comment? My comment is the stuff that you have put together is very clear, concise, gives us a good understanding of where we need to go and where we need to be, and most importantly, that makes me feel a little bit better about the decisions that we made in the past to get here. So I know it was hard for everybody, all all the staff, but we do see light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll move forward from here.
Question. I know per the board's direction, that's the reason we do a 5-year plan. Do you think it would save staff time and be more usable and realistic to switch to just like a 3-year plan? Would that help you? Because I think the last 2 years is kind of a long shot that we may be able to.
As the economy gets better and these big capital projects, get behind us, then I would like to shrink it up to 3 years. But right now, I think it's really important that you see that horizon, because there's some big things, coming down the pike, and I think it serves the board and the staff well to see it. I don't want to put people through it. We had a discussion, with staff. It'd be great if we can take it down to 3, but for the reasons I stated, I think we need to keep it at the 5-year horizon for now.
Sounds good.
Sorry, go ahead.
The other question I had was, I was talking with the sheriff a little bit about the sheriff's admin building and plans for that, and I was curious, speaking of long-term projects, that's one of the ones that's not as well developed on how we're going to proceed and how we're going to fund it and all those things. But I would just encourage I think that's something that's important to incorporate into the plan of how we're doing the jail and how we're doing the other components that are over there. And I was thinking it would be nice to look at some of our options as far as funding that. I think there's possibilities for private financing to be able to do that may make sense based on the current problems we have with our facilities and especially as the new jail is put in. So speaking long-term, 5 years.
Yeah. On your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
Actually, we show the sheriff's admin. We also showed, let us not forget, we have the district attorney, public defender, and probation. The courthouse is expected to be moved. They're wanting to move in around 2019.
Sure.
As soon as that happens, every one of those departments, not just the sheriff, and this isn't speaking negatively, but it's also DA, public defender, probation are going to want to be on that site.
Right.
So we're going to have to look at all that. And then your last 5-year plan, if you looked at the outer couple years, we showed programming.
Yeah.
And also a funding plan to be developed. And that's probably what you'll see in your upcoming 5-year plan. So we're not going to lose sight of it. But I can tell you right now, there's no way you could,
what I'm saying,
fund all that.
Well, I think it's
at the
good.
Same time.
I think moving it forward, I think with some of the problems with how it's set up today and the costs that you see, especially with the jail and so forth, I think moving the entire organization when we put the jail in at the same time and having the whole thing set up makes more sense. And I think that would have some savings. So I the capital plan's good. I think just moving that part up and trying to make that part of the project more of a priority with the jail component, the site planning.
I think we can do the site planning, but the issue is you're looking at a $20 million deficit. You throw another $10 million on there, you've got $30 million. You haven't solved the $20 million first. You're not going to lose sight of it because it is part of the plan. But realistically speaking, it's going to be really hard to focus on the $20 million to get the jail built versus the $30 million to get the offices moved at the same time. I
agree,
but it doesn't.
It's not
mean
easy.
Well, it's not easy, but be realistic. It's almost going to be an impossible task. It's going to be most difficult to get to $20 million. So it's got to be a part of the plan. It is part of the plan, but until you have solved the issue of funding for that jail, you're pretty premature.
I think that we're 5 years out. I think in the next year we'll know about the $20 million for the jail, and I think that's going to tell us a lot. Right. And you know, I'm an optimist. I think that that's going to happen. You guys have been working really hard on it.
You're younger than I am, though.
Well, that doesn't mean we can't try.
I'm hoping to see it in my lifetime.
What I'm talking about specifically is public-private partnerships that will finance this It's different. There's different requirements than a jail. But I think there's opportunities out there that weren't there 3-4 years ago because of the financial climate. And I think you might find that to build this in conjunction with the other project would create cost savings. There's economy of scales going on. And I think it would be a better product, and it would create a better department. I think it's going to be more functional. And I'm not asking you to agree, but I'm saying we need to look at this, and there's some opportunities out there, and that's what I want to.
So how many lunches did the sheriff buy you?
None.
I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm just kidding.
This isn't doing the sheriff a favor. This is something I think will make a difference in the quality of law enforcement services in Tuolumne County.
I think we totally understand it, and it is part of the plan. I'm just being realistic that, you know, you got a $20 million problem first. And I understand the public-private partnership. We've discussed that about turning some of the property into commercial value there to put, commercial activity on that site, take that money to build other things. So, Mr. Pedro.
I just want to mention, can you go back to the other slide? This is commitments. That's all I'm putting here. We're absolutely committed to this, right now. That doesn't, for this forecast, doesn't mean we're not looking at it. Back to the 5-year plan that the board will adopt, you'll see that, again, not only sheriff, but also probation, public defender, and DA on there as well. And we'll look at all different types of financing, but be it regular public financing or public-private lease revenue, whatever it is, it's still debt service, and we still got to pay for it. So there's all kinds of ways to secure debt, but it comes down to someone's got to pay
Totally.
the price on it. And we'll look at that because, but it's never been lost. But we got to get all those departments over there. And that's the plan, which is the good thing. We've planned that from the beginning. There's already sites, set aside. So we'll just look at it as we move forward.
Supervisor Rodover.
Yeah. Just hopefully to kind of put a nice big bow around this. I'm with the chairman. I'm a lot happier, I think, right now than some of my contemporaries are in some other counties that didn't make some of the really tough decisions. And I certainly wasn't around to participate in those tough decisions, but I'm very thankful that my predecessors were. And so this is a much better picture. But I do also agree that we need to keep the end game on the Law and Justice Center in full view, and look for every opportunity that we have out there to do things creatively and to help ourselves out. But I think this is this picture is a very positive comment on the previous boards and the CAO's office on making some really tough decisions, and I'm glad they did it.
Well said.
Just a comment about opportunities. Just a reminder, here's your first installment. We have the $250,000 that we just sold property to the TCTA. That's not counted in here yet, so that'll help. And if indeed the legislature does pass the governor's budget with respect to payback of SB 90, there's $734,000. There's almost $1 million between the two. There's your first installment for year one. So those are the kinds of opportunities you want to look at. Every bit of that one-time money, grab it and apply it.
Any other questions? Comments? Looks like we're done with that item. It's not an action item. Thank you so much for all the hard work. 23.
Consideration of approving out-of-state travel for Supervisor Carl Rodefer to attend the National Institute of Corrections training program in Aurora, Colorado on February 22nd through 27th, 2015, and the National Association of Counties Western Interstate Conference in Kauai, Hawaii, May 20th through 22nd, 2015, and the annual conference for NACO in Charlotte, North Carolina, July 10th through 13th, 2015.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Mr. Chairman, the National Institute of Corrections training program is fully funded by National Institute of Corrections. That includes all transportation, lodging, and cost of the training. So basically, it's a freebie for the county. In terms of the two proposed trips to NACO conferences, the Western Interstate, I believe, is the greatest value to the county, and with the annual conference in North Carolina being would be my recommended second priority, but I think they're both worth going to. I did not attend an annual conference last year. I did go to the Ledge Conference. I'm not available to go to the Ledge Conference this year. I am proposing that I will pay for all of my getting there and back for both conferences, and all I'm asking the county to foot the bill for is the lodging at the conference facilities and the conference fees, which would be essentially the same amount of money if it was in-state travel. So I'm not adding anything to that at all, and I will take the rest out of my own pocket.
Out of your high pay. Out of your high pay.
Out of my high pay.
Any comments? Supervisor Hanville.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say on the NACO things, I think it's essential we participate in NACO. Everything I gain or collect from my colleagues at RCRC and CSAC say it's important that we be there, and it would be nice if we could send some more. And it's a nominal fee, and it's very frankly cheap to get rid of Rutherford for a few days. So I certainly support those, and I think we need to send a letter to NIC Training thanking them for paying to get rid of them for a few days. I think we ought to approve all these things.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, I just would agree, especially we just had a conversation about PILT and SRS and NACO. I think I've heard you use the comment before, it's like RCRC on steroids, and I agree with that, just with what I've listened and what they accomplish, and so I would second the motion if there was one made.
No one's made the motion yet, but I will.
Well, I'll make the motion so she
Okay.
can second it.
It's just second. Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0.
Abstain.
4-0. One abstention. Next item.
Reports.
Okay, Supervisor Hanville.
Yes, thank you. Two things. One of them, which is local, I want to congratulate our housing team. They did a survey of local housing needs, and I have a copy because I'm on the Housing Policy Committee, but I recommend that we get a copy for every member of the Board of Supervisors. It's a really interesting result, and I think you need to spend some time studying it. But I want to thank the housing team for getting that together. It took a while, but I think the results are meaningful. The second thing that I want to talk about is a week ago last Friday on January 9th, I went down to San Luis Obispo because there was a California Water Board's meeting. We would not even have had known about that if it hadn't been for our Ag Commissioner. The California Water Boards had some what I will refer to as clandestine meetings by invitation only. We weren't included in that. And then I think as a result of those becoming known, they had these, quote, public meetings. They're called Grazing Regulatory Action Plan. I'm going to hand you copies of my notes from those meetings. Basically, the meeting opened at 9 o'clock with the chairman of the Central Coast Water Quality Board, I think is what it is, part of the California Water Board's Dr. Jean-Pierre Wolf, and he got up and he talked. And I thought it was interesting that he got up and he said, these are information meetings, they're listening meetings. We want to listen to hear what you have to say. And the title of the meeting is Grazing Regulatory Action Plan. There was no problem put forth, problem statement of any kind, no evidence justification that a problem even exists. There was no root cause of such a problem presented, nor was there any proposed regulatory action. But the meeting was called Grazing Regulatory Action Plan. And you can read from my notes, but basically I told them that I didn't believe them, that they had no preconceived notions, but it was hard to fight against a phantom that you didn't know what it was you were arguing about. 150 people showed up at this meeting, roughly, virtually all ranchers, 2 elected officials from San Luis Obispo County and myself. Other members, I know our new ag commissioner was there, and there was a professor from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo who pointed out to him that they didn't have a problem or an evidence of a problem existing. The demand for this meeting was so great they had a meeting in the afternoon. Last week on Thursday they had similarly 2 meetings in Reading, which I understand were more aggressive on the part of the audience, and there's a meeting next week in San Luis Obispo. This is something that deserves our our attention, and very frankly, I think Natural Resources Committee needs to have it on their agenda and recommend action by the board to oppose this. I pointed out to them that, and I'll finish with this, that Tuolumne County's economy historically is based on such things as mining, forestry, and ranching, traditional industries, and that we weren't notified about any of these meetings, and that I personally resented that they should not leave us out of the equation. And so it's just an action item to pay attention to and do something about it. Someone's decided grazing is a problem, it needs to be regulated, and they have a timetable to take that action, and yet we don't know what the problem is. Thank you.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll just comment that I was flat on my back, sick for about a week, so not a whole lot, but I did participate in the WIR, NACO's WIR conference call where the 3 subjects were PILT, SRS, I've already reported on those, and Waterways of the U.S. Waterways of the U.S. is continuing to be widely opposed across the country, especially the western states, and it is being pushed hard in Congress to take congressional action to prevent implementation of the rule. Other than that, like I said, I was flat on my back.
Okay. So you weren't able to stir up any problems. That's probably thankful.
It was too far to go to District 4.
All right. Supervisor Royce.
No report.
Supervisor Brennan.
Yeah, just a couple of things. On January 13th, we had the Natural Resource Committee meeting, and we did discuss GRAP at length, and there is one more meeting that will be held in Bishop next week. There was a meeting in Reading, and the reports out of that meeting reflected Supervisor Hanfeld's comments, and I will be attending the meeting in Bishop next week. It has the potential to have very far-reaching implications to all of the grazing lands in the entire state. I want to thank Daniel Richardson. He's not in here, but we generate an awful lot of letters out of the Natural Resource Committee, and he's on point, and I just wanted to thank him. I hope he's listening. Lots of effort, and it's really important. I attended the Vision Sonora subcommittee meeting, and actually will be chairing one of their subcommittees. And I just want to let everyone know that Vision Sonora is it's a very comprehensive, aggressive plan. There will be a lot of opportunities for input. I would encourage the public to do that. I think it will have a lot of benefits for the entire county. So that's my report.
County Council.
Yes, thank you. So the last couple of weeks, Chris Schmidt has worked on an elections lawsuit regarding some discovery responses. He is preparing for a temporary restraining order hearing for the sheriff's office tomorrow, and he's working on various government claims. Carlin attended the Natural Resources Committee meeting. Also, she attended TCTC, the TCTA meeting, and a land use and environmental law update. Cody continues to work on numerous contested hearings. We have about 8 set over the next month, and we have 7 cases up on appeal right now. And then I've covered a lot of juvenile matters while Cody was out for a couple of weeks. I'm helping him prepare for a court trial this Thursday, and I also attended the TCTA meeting and assisting Chris on some claims.
Thank you. Clerk?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Mr. Pedro? You had enough, huh? Okay, short one for me. Economic Development Authority meeting on January 9th. We discussed some happenings at the Innovation Lab. We're going to have 2 engineering teams from UC Merced working there in the next, I guess, almost year to do some development research, which is a pretty big deal, to have that happen. Commission on Aging. The Commission on Aging, for the first time in many years, has a full contingency of memberships. They've really gone out to get people to join, and it's a real energetic group. I was asked to pass on that the Sonora Senior Providers are having a crab feed January 31st at 5 o'clock at the Senior Center, and tickets are $35 each for all-you-can-eat crab. And Carl's got his, I have mine, so everybody else out there better get theirs too. In Groveland, we had a meeting last Thursday on the Groveland Circulation Plan. We received a grant from Safe Route to Schools, Dr. Stolp and TCTC. It's a draft plan, but it shows that we do have some issues that we should correct, and it's a starting point. Caltrans is going to be doing some immediate work up there in the next few months to realign the center line to allow more walking space on the north side of 120 and realigning the crosswalk. So just out of that plan, we've got good Caltrans support and actually some work being done. And I want to thank Duke York and PG&E for the new streetlights in Groveland, the antique poles. Everybody's liking them. They're turning out real good, and that's my report. Will the clerk please read the closed session items?
Closed session, conference with labor negotiators Craig Pedro, Ann Fremd, Authority Government Code Section 54957.6, all bargaining units. Conference with real property negotiators, price and term. Authority Government Code Section 54956.8, negotiators Craig Pedro, Daniel Richardson, David Alajam, related to the properties and associated rights located at 9325 Figueroa Road, APN 039-020-09 and 9436 Figueroa Road, APN 039-010-33. And conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Authority Government Code Section 549569D2, one case.
Do we expect to have anything to report? No. Is there any public comment on the closed session items? Seeing none, the meeting adjourned.